Hello, and welcome to Pace Summer 2024. We have an absolutely stacked week ahead of us, chock full of awesome showcase runs and tournaments, benefiting a great cause, the Urban Arts Foundation. And what better way to kick us off than with something very close to my heart, a bona fide Lego speedrunning block. We got 6 hours of Lego speedruns over the course of the next 4 runs over the course of the next six hours, excuse me. I'm Chimkin. I'm joined here by my good friend, the ever credible and anonymous source.
Yes.
Anonymous, how do you feel about this first run we got coming up here?
I'm very excited. These are the top four runners of this game. If you're watching, I'm sure you've seen the run either through Summoning Salt or Pace last year. It's a very exciting run. I'm really excited to get to show it off again.
Yeah, and I think if we're ready to get started here.
Yeah, here we go.
Runners, you ready? Great. Okay.
Yes.
I guess we'll get started here in 3. Hold up. All right, we'll get started in 3, 2, 1, go.
And we are off.
Yeah, so this is Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga Any Percent. I don't think we've said that yet. A very popular category nowadays, like Anonymous was saying. So we got our 4 runners here, the top 4 runners on the leaderboard. We Super, Zach Muffin, Ginger Legend, and It's Jared 97. And they are starting us off here in episode 1.
Yeah, I guess the first thing to point out, as always with LEGO runs, is that they are using something called one player, two controller, or 1P2C. Basically, they're going to be using 2 players in the game, but they are just still one person doing the run. Most commonly, that's a controller on player 1, a keyboard on player 2, and it's going to just help them do 2 things at once, which is helpful either to just do the level twice as fast, or there's a lot of skips that require it. It opens up a lot of possibilities, and you see it right now. Yeah, both players called in, both players doing their own thing, helping them get through fast.
Yeah, and with this first level, this is the only level in the game, but it does matter how many currency studs they pick up, since it saves about 10 seconds to get 0 in this first level. So we're going to see a couple of intentional deaths here towards the end of the level, just to try and make sure everyone ends with 0 studs.
Yeah. And up ahead, we're also going to see an early skip thanks to 1P2C. You couldn't do it one player. There's a cutscene trigger in this room off to the right that you can, when you have both players in, player 2 will not trigger the cutscene. So they're going to leave player 1 in. Well, okay, Ginger looks like he still got the cutscene, but the others, and Zach gets it as well. Okay, not a great start, but a couple of the runners did manage to skip the cutscene just by keeping player 1 in off to the side and sending player 2 through the trigger.
Yeah, so that is the first level of episode 1 down. And that is, ooh, Jared's having a little bit of issues with studs here. Unfortunate for him. So is Ginger, it looks like. Wow, not exactly the greatest negotiations there, but that's all right. This is a good showcase here.
Yeah, Zach's still struggling. He's got TC14 on one leg, which makes, I think, it's a droid.
Yeah.
She walks a lot slower with one leg. That'll come up a lot later with C-3PO levels. You want to avoid taking damage with the droids.
Yeah, and I guess now's a good time as any to talk a little bit about the order we're playing the levels in. So you do have to play every level within an episode in order, but the episode's order that you play them in can be any order. So there's 6 episodes in this game. We're starting on episode 1, but later on we're going to shake up the order and not go chronologically all the way through. Now we're into Invasion of Naboo, the second level of the game here.
Yeah.
We have a bit of a pretty technical skip coming up called Invasion Cutscene Skip. So there's a cutscene later on in this room, but if you glitch your way up on top of this tree that's coming up, you're able to get under the floor and completely skip the cutscene later on in the room where you meet Jar Jar.
Yeah. This is the first out of bounds of the game. Out of bounds movement is really nice in this game. You can, if you are under a floor, you can just walk straight forward and you will like keep your height. And you can also control how high you go. If you jump, you gain height. If you stop moving, you lose height. So you have a lot of control when you're under the floor about where you can be, and that helps a lot for these skips.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like Ginger had a bit of a mishap clipping out of bounds there, so he is going to have to watch the Jar Jar cutscene. Rare cutscene in this game. Don't see this one too often. Meanwhile, we're going to get to see some platforming here in the second room. Up on Wii Super here, he's doing a couple of precise jumps. Jar Jar, of course, does have higher jump than the Jedi, so he's able to do some platforming that the other characters aren't able to.
Yeah, all right, and good for Wii Super. Zach now coming up on some of these jumps. Good so far. Yeah, Jar Jar also has a faster movement speed than the average character, so I mean that combined with the jump height makes these jumps like very different from any other in the run. There's a lot of other precise jumps, but like when you're just using a Jedi, it's pretty much the same no matter which one you have. Though these are different and these can be harder to get down.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is the only level we have Jar Jar in our party, so he doesn't really... It would be really nice if he was in more levels, because he's a super broken character, but this is the only time we play as him in the whole run, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And with that, most of our runners will be on to the next level, Escape from Naboo. It's a pretty straightforward movement-based level. Probably the simplest level in the game, if I had to say. At least one of the two simplest levels, I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, this is one where you kind of try to optimize as much as possible just based on like taking a super direct path to where you're trying to go. And that's where one of the major differences between keyboard and controller comes in. I know Wii Super, for the longest time, was a double keyboard runner, but I believe he's playing on controller for these first levels just so you can get the like slightly faster movement in a simple level like Escape from Naboo.
Yeah, and real quick, before we get into the gameplay, we did have a donation come in right before we started. $55 from Super Stinky Burps with the comment, beans. So thank you. Just a reminder, all the raised money from this does go to the Urban Arts Foundation. There's a donation command in chat if you'd like to support that cause. All right. Got a sick trick coming up here. Arch clip, a little up warp. Take a better line in that room with that.
Yeah, and then, I mean, the only other thing you worry about after Arch Clip is just trying not to die. You'll see, like, in the top left, Wii Super didn't get a power up there, so he's just going to have to avoid these droids. Does so just fine.
Yeah, power-ups are those blue little orbs on the ground. They are pretty powerful. On top of making it so that you have invincibility and you regenerate hearts, it also gives you a couple of bonus abilities that are more useful later on, like faster forcing and faster building. So those are pretty powerful when they're in your way, in the path of the level. In this level, we're just using them for invincibility, though.
Yeah. And now we have these targets up on the wall there that Wii Super is coming up on. You're just going to, most common strat, go up on the elevator to shoot them all nice and easy.
And in the bottom corner, we have a bit of a trick coming up here from Jared. So after an in-game camera pan plays like what played right after he steps on the button, if you swap characters while you're off screen, it completely skips those camera pans. Small little time save there. We'll see more of those later on for sure. Now Zach is coming up on that same trick here in a moment. Ooh, just barely gets it there.
Nice. Yeah, and these in-game camera pan skips are kind of one of the most obvious places to skip stuff once we find a way to do it. There's also going to be a lot of them skipped with dropouts, which, so yeah, there's a lot of ways to get around, and at this point, most of them are not. We don't have to watch.
Dropping out, for those not aware, is when you have two players in and you want to give one of them back to the computer's control. You drop out, and that gives you back to one-player gameplay. Speaking of one-player gameplay, we have the pod race coming up here, which for a long time was a complete auto-scroller, but now we have a pretty cool lap skip in the level that we'll see here in about a minute. One of the flashiest tricks in the run for sure.
Yeah, it's also very high stakes in the context of a race. We have a tournament going on right now, and like there's been a lot of races decided, pretty much right here. So it's very important that the runners lock in and get this one. It shouldn't be that hard of a trick in theory, but it's sort of one small mistake and something's going wrong. So it'll be, big moment right here. Make sure they all get it.
Yeah. First things first, though, they have to play through most of the first lap before they get to the point where they can clip out of bounds. So we'll see a bit of intended gameplay here first.
Yeah.
But basically, this trick coming up here, I believe it's Jared is the closest to it right now. It involves clipping out of bounds because if you're up against a wall in the pod race and you call in your player 2, it calls them in front of you, which can put them out of bounds. We call this trick pod fraud because it's the pod race and we're being a little fraudulent with our completion of it. So here comes the clip right here.
Yeah, first thing he's going to do is he's going to send player 2 to the finish line, which is going to finish lap 1. And now that cutscene triggers at the end of the lap. And around the middle of the track, there's like a mid-lap checkpoint that you need to hit to register the next lap as hit. So you're going to see Jared angling towards the middle of the lap. He knows exactly where the checkpoint is. Going to call in. Now player 2 has hit the checkpoint, and now he can go to the finish line and finish the lap.
Very clean pod fraud there from Jared. Looks like Wii Super now coming up.
Little trouble for him. He's not going to get the fastest setup. I don't know what he's doing, but it will work in the end, but a little slower.
A little bit on the slow side, but still works. Honestly surprised he didn't lose more speed on that. Zach lands it as well.
Yeah. Just one more. I think Ginger's still on lap 1.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I'm not sure if this works.
Yeah, he is
still
on lap 1. I don't know what the backup is here. Because if you come in bounds, sometimes you are facing forward, but sometimes you are facing backwards.
He is facing backwards.
And this is very slow.
Yeah, you don't... That's unfortunate. So Ginger will be taking an early L here. He can absolutely... This is a 2.5-hour speed run. There's a ton of time to make time up again, but he is going to restart the level since completing a lap backwards is slower than restarting the level. So he's going to be a bit of a deficit here in the race off the bat, but doesn't mean he's out of it yet.
And that's the beauty of a 4-way race. We still have 3 runners with clean starts to hang out close to each other.
It wouldn't be a TCS race if there wasn't a missed pod fraud.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the other 3 runners will be on to the next level, Retake Theed Palace. A lot of people consider this level to be the first, real high skill ceiling level. The first 4 levels, there's obviously things in them, but it's more or less like 1 or 2 things. This level has like a dozen strats in it. There's a ton of stuff in this level. It's a very cool level, so I'm excited to see how they all do here.
Yeah, and there's a couple spots with where we might see some different strats. There's been recent developments with some there's a difficult parkour skip around the middle that saves a couple seconds. Clip at the beginning that I think everyone's gonna do, but that is another small, pretty recently implemented time save. It's a pretty optimized level at this point, but very difficult to do everything right. Jared is going to be the first to enter, and this first trick, theater clip, there's a speeder in the level Theed that at the beginning, he's just going to use that speeder to clip out of bounds up ahead at the wall.
We'll see if he can get out here quickly. There's a lot of droids that sometimes make it complicated, but no problem there for Jared.
Nice.
We'll see if We Super and Zach can have similar theater clips here.
Okay, Ginger is having another weird pod fraud. I don't know why he's getting the cutscene this late, but he is on the right lap. So this,
yeah. Just needs to turn her. Oh, no, he's good. He's good.
Yeah.
Very slow one, but
It'll work.
yeah. Okay, yeah, that should be fine. He's going to be backwards for a minute here, but he did get the trigger there, so. Unfortunate pod race from Jared, or Ginger, excuse me. But, you know, he's through it now.
Yeah.
And back on Jared's side, we're going to see, we call these the elevator skip here.
Yeah.
So he's going to go use the elevator to skip the normal route through this level. I imagine we're going to be seeing a faster route here from at least one of the other two runners up top, though.
Yeah, this is, I'd say at the top level, there's not a lot of like strat differences, but this is definitely one of them. We see Wii Super going off to the left side to do, there's just a series of jumps you can do with both players to get up top, and it's a couple seconds faster than the elevator, but definitely harder. Ooh, that is...
Bad death there from Wii Super.
Okay, it was not as bad as it looked like it would be, but yeah, dying in this game, it's a 2-second time loss, like between when you die and when you respawn, but also it can be a little more if you are like in midair and you don't have a respawn point, which is what happened there.
Yeah, we're going to see a little bit more out of bounds here. So if you murder Captain Panaka right in this corner, he will respawn partially in the transition to the last room, and you can push him through the wall and get out of bounds and skip this room entirely. We call this a transition skip. Unfortunately, this is the only one of those types of skips in this game. We kind of have a running joke that there's like 20 ways of getting out of bounds in this game, but every way only works like in one place, and there's no other useful places to use it, and that's a great example of that right there.
Yeah, I'd say like recently we've had another piece of tech, the super jump, that's been like the first tech that is actually useful in multiple places. So we'll see that pretty soon. Right now we have more of these camera pan skips. We'll see it in the top left. They're swapping, you know, right as they're off screen, so they can skip these camera pans that show you the royal guards you need to free.
Yeah, getting 4 of them all in a row there, it's pretty important, since if you miss one of them, you actually miss every one after that as well. And we'll see some force pushes on R2-D2 here. This is another small time save from 1P2C. If you have 2 players in, one of them's a droid. Droids move slow. You can force push them forward, make them go a little faster. And with that, we'll be into the last level of episode 1. So there's 6 levels per episode. That was the 5th level of episode 1. We're on to the Darth Maul level next, which is a pretty difficult level. Bit of an inconsistent one as well.
Yeah, Theed is definitely the hardest, like, movement 1P2C episode, but Maul has the hardest skips, and we're going to see one of them right at the start with the lamp jump, where they have to... There's a lamp on the wall, and they have to, like, jump directly under it to get, like, they're technically out of bounds when they're under that lamp, and that way they can jump up on top of the lamp and skip this first fight with Darth Maul.
Yeah, saves a ton of time, too. This is a really slow boss fight. So this skip saves, like, over 40 seconds when you get it first try. So we'll see Jared here, the first one to attempt it. We'll see if he can get into the collision. Ooh, misses the collision there. Ooh, misses it again, giving Wii Super a chance to catch up here a little bit. Ooh.
Oh.
All right, they're
they both get it.
synced up there.
Yeah.
Fast first try there.
And you can see why it's hard, because you don't really see what you're jumping for. You just have to go under the lamp, and the depth perception's not always super easy.
Looks like Zach took an unfortunate backflip off the lamp there and missed his first attempt. Oh, he does get the cart all the way to the door, though. Rare strat there.
Beautiful.
We'll see a little bit of a skip on Zach's screen here. You can take a better line through this room by jumping up the collision of this wall to get up top here instead of taking the longer, worse line around the edge. And we're into the third room of this level. Pretty long one. Definitely one of the longest rooms in the game that doesn't have a skip currently. You have to fight all of these droids here in order to reactivate this platform. It's cool to see 3 of our runners still in the same room, though.
Yeah.
Close race right now.
And this is where power-ups really come in handy, just for the invincibility, and also it'll deflect all of the bolts back at the droids that shoot them, so you can get a lot of kills that way. And, I mean, you would be dying a lot here if you didn't have the power-up, because there's just so many shots being fired.
Yeah. It's really difficult to not die to large groups of enemies just because they behave so unpredictably. Even like a really skilled runner can't really predict what's going to happen. See that power-up also help with the droidicas, since their bullets will immediately deflect right back at them and kill them.
And yeah, we have basically a tie for the lead, and that could be settled up on this next skip, which is the Maul cycle skips. Basically, in this ending Darth Maul fight, when Maul has an even number of hearts, he'll like jump away from you for a few seconds. So to get around that, if we do 1 heart of damage that attack him with both players on the exact same frame, we can skip him jumping away. And both runners do it twice.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the double frame perfect trick to maintain the sync between the 2 of them. That's awesome.
Yeah. And we'll see if Zach can match. He got them both.
6 for 6. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You do not see that very often. That's a pretty easy trick to miss.
Yeah. I was hoping someone would miss just to show what it's skipping.
Oh, well, we still
But
have one
yeah.
more runner coming up here in a
Hopefully.
minute, so we'll see if Ginger can do it. And that is episode 1 complete for 3 of our runners here. We're into episode 2 here in a moment. That is the next episode. So we're gonna maintain the chalk order here. We're gonna go to episode 2 next, but it'll get a little funkier after that. After, of course, the legendary Gungan celebration cutscene.
Yeah. Some of the greatest music in the game, I think, is this cutscene's music. But yeah, Ginger now just approaching Maul. We'll see if he can get a bit of time saved to the other runners with the first try lamp jump. Yeah.
Bit of a funky looking one, but that did work first try. So, getting the cart. The jukes.
Expertly dodge.
That's insane. So the next level being played, the first level, episode 2, Bounty Hunter Pursuit, is an interesting level because LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga is more of a soft remaster of the original 2 LEGO Star Wars games, but Bounty Hunter Pursuit is the only original level out of the 36 main levels in this game that was not in the previous game. So this is a brand new level for this game specifically, and it's a pretty cool one in the speedrun. There's a lot of interesting 1P2C in this level. It's also our first like real vehicle level, excluding Pod Race, because Pod Race is pretty different.
Yeah. And the fact that this is sort of a mix of 2 different games does come into play when you look at the level design. There's a lot of like game mechanics that just didn't exist when they made LEGO Star Wars 1, which was the prequels game. And so like you won't see them building anything in a prequel level other than they added one in the first level. But like in general, like the levels are going to be longer in the original trilogy, and there's a lot of stuff they added. Like in Bounty Hunter Pursuit, they have these torpedoes that didn't exist when they made the original game, so they only exist in this level because it was added later.
Yeah, and it also, since the original trilogy levels are longer and they have a lot more complex mechanics in them, it also means there's a lot more opportunities for skips as well. So we'll see a lot of diversity in the skips later on in the run as well. This level, though, Bounty Hunter Pursuit, it's one of the few levels in the game that doesn't really have, I guess it kind of has a skip, we'll get to that in a minute, but it doesn't really have any skips. It's mostly just well-executed gameplay. And the 1P2C in these vehicle levels is actually pretty difficult. It's a lot harder than most levels because your characters keep moving forward even if you drop a directional input, which makes it harder to get them exactly where they need to go.
Yeah.
So you see Justin, We Super there, make a small mishap there. It's very easy to take a slightly too tight of a line and miss one of those buttons there.
Yeah. I mean, this level, it's maybe the hardest, just pure like two-player level in the game. Trying to just the gameplay is like not that easy with one player, especially like getting the torpedoes to take the path you want them to is not very easy. Like they won't usually go directly there unless you're facing a certain direction. So trying to manage that with both players at the same time is very difficult. This level takes a ton of practice to get down.
This is also one of the levels we play entirely with both players dropped in. At no point in this level does it make sense to drop out, so it's a full 5 minutes, I suppose, with cutscenes of 1P2C gameplay there. Okay, we're into the second torpedo room here. Kind of a repeat of the first room, but with double the objectives here. So getting rid of all these yellow pylons opens up the door so you can continue into the boss fight.
Oh, and we see a little fun fact moment for Wii Super. He left a tower up in the top right, the one in the middle. But fun fact, that specific tower you do not need to destroy. All of the others you do, but you can leave that one. It's just fine.
Yeah, they made a little issue in the code there, forgot to attach that one. And blink or you'll miss it, and we'll get to see it here on Zach's screen. We do have a boss fight. Make sure your eyes are open here for the next couple seconds, because if you just spam real quick with both players, you can completely kill Zam Wessel before the camera pan even finishes, and that's the entire boss fight. Definitely the fastest boss fight in the game. Don't even get to see the full health count before it's over.
Yeah, that's something with vehicle levels. If you spam the attack button, you will shoot your shots as fast as you can mash the button. In like ground levels with blaster characters, you can't actually attack that fast. There's a limit, but vehicle levels you can go as fast as you want. So when you start facing directly at the boss, you know, with good mashing, it's just an easy 1 second fight.
On to Discovery on Camino here, one of the harder levels in the full game. I think most people would put this in like the bottom 5 levels in the game. It's a pretty difficult one. It's very punishing too. So we're going to start with the R4 fly here. You have to fly around a kill plane to make it across that bridge early. And we see Jared and Wii Super both getting that first try. We'll see if Zach can repeat. Does manage to. Excellent. 3 for 3 there.
And now we have the first super jump skip coming up. The super jump mechanic, basically, if you get a player stuck, and that is like an AI dropped out character, they will just like warp back to where their last respawn point is. So we're going to abuse that by, they're going to set a respawn point and then fly like around the wall and get stuck. And then if they interrupt the super jump by force pushing the R2, they can like stop the movement while they're going through a wall and get out of bounds outside of the wall.
Yeah, this is a pretty punishing trick. It's you don't have a lot of room out of bounds to stay on the wall there, where Zach is right now. But we did see 3 first tries there, which is pretty nice. That is absolutely one of the skips that people tend to reset on sometimes when it goes awry. It loses a ton of time when you miss it. So good to see 3 runners all sticking together here.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you can tell these are the top runners, because like even just slightly below them at that level, like you would expect someone to have a disaster early in this level.
Yeah. We get a quick drop in warp. If you go into this corner, you can confuse player 2 on Zach's screen and make them think you're in the next room already. Completely skip a cutscene and a short little encounter with Django Fett in a room we never entered. And now he's mad at us despite the fact we didn't even do anything to him.
Yeah.
All right, pretty straightforward gameplay here with the bombs. Just avoid dying and trying to stay close enough to Django so he doesn't stop moving there. I think we're going to get, we might see another drop in warp here. Yeah, on Wii Super screen. So rare trick here. This only saves time if you have keyboard player 1. This is actually a Chimkin special here. I found this trick, and we're going to see you can warp into the elevator early there. Excellent.
And on the top right, you'll see what it's skipping. You just have to force that, use the panel, then go up the elevator.
All right. And we got one more trick left before the end of the level, so you can clip into the wall here by respawning inside of Lego objects. Jared looks to get it pretty quickly there. We super on the second attempt, gets out, and Zach follows soon behind. They're going under a cutscene trigger there to avoid, well, playing a cutscene.
Yeah, and now this Django fight, pretty straightforward. It's mostly an auto-scroller. One thing you need to avoid is if you attack him too fast, like in succession, he will get invincibility frames, and then you will have like a few seconds where you just can't do any damage to him. So you need to like have that rhythm established, but it's the same rhythm for a few different boss fights in the game, so at this point these runners know that perfectly well.
And this was definitely one of the levels Ginger was hoping maybe to save some time on, but it seems like the other three runners had pretty solid levels outside of one skip or one miss on the clip at the end of the level, but not what Ginger was hoping to see there, but there's still a ton of time left for him to make up this deficit for sure. And it's a bit of a movie time here. We got, I think, a 40-second cutscene into like a 70-second cutscene that started the next level. Unfortunately, the cutscenes in this game are not skippable. So gotta just watch them. That's the way it is.
Well, there is, of course, free play where you can skip the cutscenes, but yeah, at any percent you have to watch them. So we appreciate Ginger's sacrifice being so far behind that he is in gameplay while the others are in this cutscene. He looks like, yeah, first try Camino button skip. Pretty nice to see. We'll see if he can match with a good Camino clip.
The other three runners head into Geonosis. The next 4 levels all take place in the last, like, 40 minutes of the Attack of the Clones movie, since the first, like, hour and a half does not have a lot of content in it that really transfers well to LEGO gameplay. So onto the Droid Factory here in a moment for them. Ginger heading into the last couple of rooms here of Camino. This is a good time to talk about red bricks. So this game has special abilities you can buy by collecting a red Lego brick found in every level. So there's 36 in the game, and there's 5 of them throughout the game that are useful that we are intentionally going to pick up. We're not going to see them for about 6 or 7 minutes, but 2 levels from now, we're going to see the first one that we pick up, and we're going to buy that right after episode 2. But they're super broken. They give you extra abilities. They speed up your current abilities. And the 5 that we get save quite a bit of time altogether.
Yeah, and those red bricks are really what define the route. It's about going, as early as possible, going to where the useful red bricks are, and, kind of routing out when am I going to use this? We'll put that episode after I would collect it.
See if anyone takes a death to this annoying droideka here. Yeah. Ooh, looks like we super is fine as well.
Yep.
No deaths there. Bit of a skip coming up here on Jared's screen. We call this the bucket skip. Or excuse me, this is the fast bucket cycle. Bucket skip is something completely different. The fast bucket cycle. So you get in onto the bucket on the first cycle, and then you can get off the bucket with both of these players up top and skip all the puzzle below. Probably one of like the oldest skips in the game. This has been known about for a long time.
Yeah, this is one of those that like could be mistaken for intended gameplay if you don't really know that there is the puzzle below.
Yeah, for sure. There are a couple of those throughout the game, I guess. Though nowadays, the newer skips are a lot crazier than simply, taking a faster cycle and jumping off to stuff like in the last
Yeah.
room. Bit of an escort puzzle here. 3PO cannot jump.
This is an easy room, but it's very important to not mess up and die, because 3PO would respawn all the way at the beginning, and you have to like reset the whole room.
Yeah, very costly death there if you take one on accident. Happens more often than you might think. It's pretty easy to fall off those things.
And a crazy power-up bounce for Wii Super. That's going to come right to him. That's pretty fortunate. It's going to give him fast force for this thing up here.
Ooh, we're going to see another strat difference. So Jared went across with R2-D2. We're going to see the other two runners take Anakin across and drop in R2-D2, which is a little bit faster. And then they'll drop in warp C-3PO way over on the end as soon as the bridge is done. And that saves a lot of time from walking with the very slow C-3PO. I almost said the very slow Wii Super. My bad.
And now this is one of the most important power-ups in the game that Jared has just collected, because there is, again, just so many enemies attacking you. You don't want to... with the power-up, you can get shot by an enemy and it will not interrupt your force. Otherwise, like when you're forcing something and get shot, it interrupts that. So the power-up is super important to be able to just end that room right away.
Coming up on the next level here, this is Jedi Battle. So we're not going to talk too much about this because we could spend 40 minutes talking about it, but there's a lot of RNG in this level, and it is unironically something that you can manipulate throughout the game, and all the runners have been doing paying close attention to random specific things throughout a couple of levels so far in the game to make sure that their waves of enemies in the second part of this level are consistent. So the places where they spawn are random based on a seeded memory address, and they have been intentionally trying to get in a specific range of memory addresses there to have a predictable waves on their enemies here. So we're going to see a couple of pillars rescuing our friends here, and then we'll get into those waves I was just talking about.
And yeah, I mean, these three runners are very close doing this at the same time. Again, power-ups are a big thing here. You can pick them up. You get like Super Jedi Slam and stuff, like Super Slap when you pick those up. So that's just a great little bonus to help kill these droids faster.
Absolutely. And any extra, those are all extras, the Super Slap, and those all just basically double your damage of a specific attack. So Padme's Slap does double damage with the power-up, for instance, which is pretty useful against those droidicas with the 4 hearts, I believe. So we'll see how the RNG goes here. Hopefully all the runners are on a specific seed value that they're expecting, though it looks like Wii Super may be a little off. He had a missed guy there that should have been there. Yeah, there was the last one way over there. Little trouble shooting him there as well. So the second wave tends to have more variance, so we'll see if they're able to maintain a good waves here as well. I don't think Wii Super is on a seed that I recognize, at least.
But yeah, Jared got through that one very fast.
Yeah.
All the droids pretty close together.
It looks like Zach was on a pretty standard seed as well, though this last guy is being a little hard to find. There he is. Now Ginger, because of the missed invasion, cutscene, skip, and invasion, his seed is actually going to be quite a bit different than he's expecting. That's one of the rooms that greatly impacts your RNG seed. So I'm not sure if he's going to know anything about his pattern going into that level.
And the problem for him is another thing that impacts the seed is how many times you go into the cantina. And because he had to exit pod race to restart it, that also iterated the seed forward like 6 times.
Yeah.
So he's definitely way out into no man's land with this seed.
Hopefully we're not losing anyone with all this RNG manipulation talk. Promise you that's the end of that. There's no more of it after that level. It's very technically involved, but it's pretty cool. It's cool that we get to have something like that in the game. on to the next level here, Gunship Cavalry. One of the levels that was completely redone from the original version of LEGO Star Wars, the video game. Couple of skips here in room 1, but this is also the room that contains the red brick extra we were talking about earlier. So we'll see Jared at least coming up on it here in a moment. On the right.
Yeah. And this is probably the most important one in the run, exploding blaster bolts. I mean, it's self-explanatory. When you have a blaster character, their shots will explode, kill huge packs of enemies, and there's a bunch of gameplay you can just completely skip with it.
And fortunately, the most useful extra in the game is literally just sitting out in the open. You don't have to do anything at all to get it. Wow, we are having a little bit of issue.
All 3 of them struggling on this barrier skip.
This second barrier skip is harder than it looks, but it's still pretty uncommon to see this much mishaps there at the high level, especially from 3 runners at once.
Yeah, and that one's interesting because there's like 4 different setups that runners actively use. So, I mean, I think we did see like different setups from all of them, just very slightly different ways to kind of do a flip at that rock to get player 2 in high enough to go around it.
Yeah, and this last room doesn't have any skips, but it does have a very optimized route to it. There's 3 different bomb dispensers, and there's 8 different lasers you have to hit the bombs with. So getting through all of the level, it's important to follow the route, since if you mess up with one bomb, it puts you way off of the intended way you plan to play through the room. We'll see if Ginger can find all the enemies here. He might be having to play this a little bit like how we used to, more of a hide and seek than it is a specific route here. We'll see. So far, it looks kind of fine.
It's the last one that'll get you, though.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Speaking of getting you, we got a pretty interesting strat in this next room. Unfortunately, if you miss it, you lose 40 seconds. But you can get out of bounds by forcing this barrel here that Zach is coming up on. And you can go underneath this cutscene trigger, and if you get Obi-Wan right up against the trigger to the next room, you can completely skip that room. Calling in at the wrong time, though, cues the cutscene, and then you... Oh, okay. I was a little worried on Wii Super there. No misses there, which is excellent, since calling in at the wrong time loses a ton of time there. Pretty precise trick, and also only a 1 try at it.
And now this Dooku fight is pretty much auto-scroller, like we're just gonna kind of wait for the level to iterate forward. They have to force these barrels into him, and then there's gonna be a bit of slashing. I mentioned earlier the invincibility frames with Jango Fett. That also applies here. They don't want to hit him too fast in succession, but other than that, you're just following casual gameplay.
Yeah, and while we're following the casual gameplay, we do have a pair of donations coming in from a couple of LEGO Star Wars community members. So we got a $25 donation from our good friend Carcoon with the comment Zach Dive, which is a Zach exclusive strat we might see later in the run. And we also got $25 from our good friend Chesswiz, who's going to be on commentary for the next run, actually. He says, "Go Jared, the true world record holder." Yes, Jared has been on a lot of really good paces lately. He's never had a verified world record, but I think he's going to get it pretty soon here. Into episode 4. That's the next episode. We're going to be ending episode 2 here after these cutscenes. But because we picked up the exploding blaster bolts brick, we do need to purchase that first. Take a slight detour to the shop.
Yeah, this Cantina movement to the shop is like harder than it should be, you would think. Is a little bit of a weird situation. The Yoda movement is like harder than normal, and when you have 2 players called in, some weird stuff can happen at the shop, so hopefully we'll avoid that.
Yeah, Yoda is one of the characters in this game that has a pretty interesting movement set. Most characters in the game, they move at same constant speeds. Jumping, it's the same speed. Walking, it's the same speed. Yoda his midair speed is a lot faster than most characters, but his walking speed is a lot slower. So the whole idea with him is to space out your jumps, to be on the floor for as little time as possible. You also want to have your lightsaber out because that increases his movement speed as well.
Yeah. And you'll see on Jared's screen, he got something called shop glitch, where you like get when you exit the shop, you get like half pushed back into it, and you're like forced to look at the screen for a few seconds. That's what I'm talking about when I say that this movement is like weirdly difficult, and it's something that only happens on this shop trip with Yoda.
So, like we were talking about earlier, no longer going in chronological order. Episode 4 is up next, and the reason for that is because there's actually 2 red bricks in this episode that we want to get for later in the run. So we're going to play this one now, because the red bricks save quite a bit of time, more so than the ones we will get in the later episodes. And they save time in a lot of places as well, especially the first one we're going to grab in the next level.
And also, this being the start of the original trilogy, we're going to see some longer episodes, also longer cutscenes. This is like over a minute opening cutscene on Secret Plans. But yeah, there should also be like more intricate gameplay, more skips, more of everything really. Just turn the excitement up a level when you go into the OT.
So exciting! I'm excited. I don't know about you. And into gameplay we go. On Zach's screen. So this is another level. We don't play the entire level with both players in, but we play like 95% of it with both players in, because there's just so many small time saves that you can get, and a lot of the parts that aren't, like, it's not fast to have, both players in there for a second between the levers and this, but there's no reason to drop out, so just walking with both players is faster.
Yeah. This level is pretty straightforward. It's a lot of walking. I would say, though, this level, if you are a new runner, like just trying to learn 1P2C, this is the level I would point you to just like learn this, practice it a lot, and you'll get the basics of 1-player 2 controller down. There's a lot of just like, slightly different movement stuff. There's a little bit of, box pushing later. You have to, sometimes you're doing the same thing with both players. Sometimes there's a bit of a difference, and it's just like a pretty straightforward place to get that movement down.
We're going to see exploding blaster bolts here on Wii Super and Jared's screen for the first time. So you see the bullets we shoot explode, and because of that, you actually don't have to shoot that bomb there 4 times. You can just shoot it 1 time. We're going to see a ton, in a couple of levels, a ton of examples of how much time save exploding blaster bolts have. It's such a broken extra.
And there is an interesting strat up ahead. We'll see it like next for Jared and Zach or Wii Super. They will like kill themselves right here, so then they have invincibility frames when they face these enemies. And that actually kind of exposes the problem with exploding blaster bolts, is that you also die in the explosions. So as much as possible, we want to utilize different ways to get invincibility to kind of save ourselves from that. And there's another one up ahead called Ghost Hearts, where if you die at the same time as you go through a load to a new map, you like get this glitched heart state where you have like, you'll see, actually C-3PO has it right now, where he has like 0 hearts just permanently, and it actually gives you invincibility.
Yeah, as long as you don't switch characters. As soon as you switch characters, you're down to 1 heart, which kind of complicates the trick a bit. You'll see a Rebel Friend there on Zach's screen, down to 1 heart. Mm-hmm. Zach's going to take never mind, he's not going to take an intentional death. But he managed to get his hearts back from killing all those enemies there, so it's not really that big of a deal in this situation. But still has the Ghost Hearts there on Antilles, which allows him to kill some of these enemies and not worry about dying. Into this last section, we're going to see a bit of an interesting strat where Zach's going to drop out player 1 there to save a little bit of time on movement, and then right as this cutscene starts, he'll get another camera pan skip there right before the end of the level here. And fortunately, looks like Ginger's just about to start some gameplay as we go into the cutscene here.
I do want to highlight though, Zach dropped out right at the end of this level, and that will be significant at the start of the next level. We're going to see a pretty rare strat from him. So something to look forward to.
Yeah, my intel from talking to Zach before this race is that he's going to be going for a lot of unconventional strategies throughout this run. So we're going to see some pretty cool stuff starting off right in the next level. A minor time save, but it is a pretty difficult minor time save here at the beginning of the level.
And yeah, Ginger, early in Secret Plans, you'll see he like got that power up on the ground, but he did wait to pick it up because the most important thing with that power up is that you can get the fast build benefit up top here. So you want to pick it up as late as possible to make sure you can build as much as possible with it.
Absolutely, yeah. Those don't last all that long. I think it's only about 15 to 20 seconds, something like that. So getting the full benefits of it sometimes requires you to manipulate when you pick up the power up. Into the next level, this level is called Through the Junland Wastes, and Junland is arguably, though I think it's a pretty standard opinion now, arguably the hardest level in the game. There's a ton of hard tricks in this level, and it's really difficult to line everything up and get everything first try, especially if you're going for this gap jump, because we are very creative with our names. The gap jump that Zach is doing right here at the beginning of the level.
Yeah, there's gonna be part of the thing with this level is the walls have very like weird collision because they're not smooth walls, they're all jagged and rocky. So there's like little tiny, like small 1 pixel areas that you can jump off of, and Zach is gonna try to jump off of this right here. Yeah, and he does to get across that gap, whereas the other runners have to go up and around on the left.
Yeah, and we talked previously about, oh, it looks like Jared is also gonna be doing the gap jump. It does miss it. But looking on Zach's screen, he's gonna be grabbing a red brick here in a moment. First, he has to get out of bounds with this very precise out of bounds movement. Significantly harder than it looks. He does get it first try. But he's going to go over to the right here. There is a red brick in this little nook. This is the fast force red brick. Then he's going to drop down here, respawn back where he was, be on his way. Fast force does what it sounds. It makes your forces faster. There's a lot of forces later on in the run, so that will save our runners some time.
And now coming up for Zach is maybe the hardest trick in this level, which is BBJ. You have to force these 2 boxes and then jump off of them while like getting enough height to go into the sand crawler, and he gets it first try. It's very difficult because if you are like too early with your jumps, then you won't get the height because you'll just bonk into the ceiling, but if you're too late, then you'll just kind of walk off the box. It's very hard to find that middle ground.
Yeah. Classic box jump there. Into the sandcrawler now. This is the one part of this level that doesn't actually have any skips, really. It's mostly just good 1P2C, but there is a lot of 1P2C here, and it's a lot of small optimizations, especially in this next room that Zach's about to enter with the Jawas. They do like to deactivate your droids. And yeah, there he is, aggro Jawa getting to the droid there a little quick. Oh, was he a little early? Okay, was a bit of a weirdness there with the 3PO not getting vacuumed out of his cage quickly there.
And yeah, now we come into another room full of skips, the quicksand room, where you don't have to actually, like, you're supposed to use panels to, like, get rid of the quicksand, but you can just jump around it thanks to this collision. First one good for Zach.
Let's see, Wii Super here coming up behind him in a moment, but first Zach is going to do the bone bridge skip. Oh, don't know how that worked. That's not the setup you normally seen, but it did work, so he's happy with that. Skips the bone bridge there. Looks like Justin, Wii Super, will also be doing that. Another unusual looking bone bridge skip, but We'll see if Jared follows suit here. Zach coming up on another speeder clip. Much like the one in Feed, you can use the speeder to clip right through the wall into the end of the level. And remember that piece of tech, because it's the next thing we're going to do as soon as the next level starts. Same exact sort of thing.
Interesting that Wii Super is doing it with R2-D2. Zach did it with Luke. It's not, as far as I know, it doesn't actually make a difference. I know we used to think that R2 made it a lot easier, though I think at this point we at least know how to do it well enough that it's perfectly fine with Luke as well.
Yeah, I think the only difference is the slight movement speed increase, like right after you clip for that quarter of a second. Looks like Ginger also going for the gap jump. We saw 3 people do gap jump. I was thinking we'd only see the 1, so we get to see 3 there. That's cool. As most of our runners head into the next level, Mos Eisley Spaceport. Probably one of the most linear original trilogy levels at this point. We basically skip everything. Most of the puzzles are not designed in ways that force us to play them.
And yeah, it's going to start with another speeder clip. This one definitely is harder. I think the big garage door they're clipping through is thicker than the other walls we clipped through. Though there is a setup, and very well done for Zach.
That allows him to keep the speeder into the next room as well. And there is a perfect instance of exploding blaster bolts skipping like a minute of casual gameplay there. Yeah. That wall there, you're supposed to build a whole ATST to get through. We don't got to do that.
Yeah, and on Wii Super Screen, you're going to see an interesting strat. This is like in 1-1. Player 2 will not trigger what should spawn a bunch of enemies. There's a trigger there that he goes through. But if you have both players in, only player 2 goes through the trigger, then you can skip spawning the enemies, and the door at the end, which you're supposed to have to kill a bunch of enemies to open, it will just already be open for you because there's no enemies.
Yeah, bit of a minor time save. It's actually tricky to save time with it just with the way that it works out, but it does save a couple seconds when you do it well. See the classic Han shot first cutscene there. Did indeed shoot first. Lego confirmed it. They'll be on to the second half of the level, so we'll be playing as Han Solo and Chewbacca. And Han Solo is another character with interesting movement because his double jump is a roll that is faster than walking. So jump rolling with Han is super fast. We get to play as him a lot, fortunately. He's in a ton of levels. So this is a pretty common thing we're going to be doing in these original trilogy levels. Ooh, unfortunate death there from Zach. But that's another skip there with exploding blaster bolts. Don't need to push the box to blow up that door.
Yeah. And now one more skip left on Zach's end is the spy fight skip. This one, there's another big trigger we're going to skip. This time, player 2 would trigger it, so instead we're going to just use a droid and drop them out, and then take advantage of force pushing to push them through the trigger and call in on the other side.
Very clean, fast setup there from Zach. Gets the trick, no problem. It'll be pretty obvious if they miss it, because fortunately, the door to the Falcon is just open by default, but if you hit the trigger, it closes. And if it closes, you need to play the entire boss fight casually. So it's a pretty big deal if you miss it, but another successful attempt there from Wii Super as well. Hoping for no missed spy fight skips this event. That would be excellent. We don't see it too often, but it has been known to force runners into retirement now and again. Jared going a little bit careful there. Does get it, though. No problem. Ginger having some issues with the clip there.
Yeah, if you don't get that clip right away, then the troopers come out, start shooting you out of the speeder, and it's a mess. So you really want to get that right away, or you're going to have big problems, and he had big problems.
Speaking of potentially big problems, we have Rescue the Princess up next, and this is a pretty interesting level for a few reasons. We have a couple of out-of-bounds skips towards the beginning. We also have a section in the second room where Obi-Wan Kenobi needs to force a bridge across to help our party get through, and he's no longer one of our playable characters when he does this. But occasionally, our good friend Obi-Wan will get stuck on some barrels and never make it to where he's supposed to be. But fortunately, we have a good backup now, so we have a way of preventing him from getting stuck on the barrels. We'll see if we get to see anyone showing off of that cool backup. But before we get into gameplay, we have a couple of out-of-bounds tricks first, and another red brick as well to pick up in this level. That's the newest red brick. The tractor beam. We'll talk more about that later on, but first things first, we got a out-of-bounds here on Zach's side for a cutscene skip.
And with that one, there's a little bit of a window kind of below the wall and above the kill plane, and you have to kind of time your pressing left to go on under the floor in that little window. It's pretty difficult. Zach gets a first try. And now here is the red brick grab. If you just kind of jump into these tubes, you can clip out of bounds, and the brick is just right there. There's supposed to be another room with like a whole puzzle you got to do in free play, but the brick is just conveniently right in the place we can get out of bounds.
Yeah, super convenient again. We'll see if Obi-Wan, there he is. Yeah, no problem for Zach there. We super hits that red brick quickly there. Very loud sound effect.
And now we get the first instance of helmet escort in this run. You'll see Zach getting a stormtrooper helmet on Chewbacca, and at the end of this room there's a panel that you can only use if you have that helmet. The problem is if you get shot even once, you will lose the helmet. So in this case, we're just going to be very careful to not let any of the enemies aggro. If you have a helmet, they'll kind of think you're one of them, even though obviously it's ridiculous to think about, but if they'll think you're one of them, so they just won't attack you. As long as you don't do anything wrong, as long as you don't attack anyone or something, you can just kind of keep this going forward.
They do aggro when you start building, though, so you got to be careful. Fortunately, in that room, they're all sitting in chairs, and they take a minute to do anything, so 99% of the time, you can get that build off and use the panel without having any problem. Hopefully, everyone has no problem there, because losing your helmet in this room, the computer room there, it loses quite a bit of time. That's the big thing with the helmets. If you lose your helmet, you have to backtrack all the way back to the dispenser, and it's pretty disastrous when it happens. But looks like everyone got through this level without a problem on the helmet side.
And that's good. This one, definitely not super common to lose your helmet. There are other spots where that's more of a concern, especially the next level, Death Star Escape. So we will hope that no one has any problems there.
Yeah, Death Star Escape coming up next. Another one of the probably optimally hardest levels in the game. We got a couple of advanced strats, and I've heard from a source that Zach will be doing a very new, very spicy strat later in this level. So keep an eye out for that.
First, we have a pretty spicy in its own right and not so new skip, trash skip at the beginning. And basically, you're going to build a little platform at the very beginning of the level. And if you are time it right, and you're standing in the corner next to that platform, it can push you out of bounds. It is a one try, it saves about 20 seconds, and it's very precise.
Yeah, the setup that they use requires pressing buttons on specific frames with a specific number of frames between it. Ooh, Zach does get it, though. Yeah. Does get out.
And you can see him out of bounds and all of the stuff he is going to skip up ahead. He still has both players in because he wants to get a helmet on Han. That'll come into play later.
Yeah, so he's under the floor here, and he's able to continue on his way to the door here.
Nice.
And it looks like Wii Super does miss the trash skip there. That is why they call it trash skip. Now he has to continue and do the room casually here. And it looks like Jared also missed trash skip. All right, so this is a very new strat that we just found a setup for this past week. Oh, is he not doing it? Zach. Ah, he lied to me. Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Never mind. I won't talk about it then. I was under the impression he's going to go for the cool strat there, but never mind.
Yeah. We have also another pretty recent development, though, that he's going to do instead. He switched his game to 40 Hz refresh rate, and that's going to make it easier to get pushed out of bounds by this little rotating platform. And when you do that, you can, well, yeah, you will be able to skip the whole room there. And then...
That was really interesting. He got like halfway pushed out in that first one. I have never seen that much of a push out of bounds and then not actually getting out of bounds. That's kind of crazy. There we go. Gives the other runners a chance to catch up a little bit. Kind of makes up for the trash skip time save there.
Though he did miss all of those in like the good way because he kept his helmet. If you go too early instead of too late, then you will die and lose your helmet.
Yeah, and Zach is now backtracking. This is part of another pretty technical skip called Falconless. Basically, if you load the last room, then you head back past an invisible line that deloads the last room, and then when you reload the last room, a part of the process of beating the last room never gets loaded back in, and as a result, the end level trigger is just sitting where the Falcon should be, so we can completely skip freeing the Falcon from the prison it's in and escape the level a lot quicker.
Yeah. I mean, this is, I think, to me, like the most mind-blowing skip discovery we've ever made. It was originally found in a modded version of the game where someone was just like messing around using vehicles in regular levels. And for the longest time, that clip just existed of them hitting the trigger, and we just like, I guess it's a modded thing. But then finally, years later, somebody else did it, and we kind of had another chance to like look at everything they did in the level and realize the backtrack is what did it.
Yeah, definitely one of the craziest skip discovery days we've ever had. That one, a core memory of my experience with the community. Yeah. And fortunately, that power up there is there, so you can completely ignore all of the enemies in this room that we supers in. And there's a ton of enemies there, so it's really nice you don't have to deal with all those guys. In LEGO Star Wars 2, does not have power-ups. You do have to kill all the guys in that room. Pretty annoying, so shout-outs to power-ups. Excellent gameplay design there from TT Games. And we are now into another vehicle level. This is Rebel Attack, blowing up the Death Star here. I think usually this is considered to be one of the better vehicle levels in the game. It's a pretty fun one. A lot of 1P2C, but it's a lot of cool stuff as well. Bit of a skip towards the end as well.
First, though, we're going to have Ginger starting out DSC. I know he's going to go for trash skip. I've seen him get it quite a few times, so that'll be something interesting to watch for. A chance to make up time on the other runners.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the sort of thing that could really help pull himself back into this race. I know we haven't seen a ton of mistakes from anyone else, so he's kind of maintained his distance away from the pack here. Does not get it, though. So just the one trash skip there. I'm glad we got to show it off at least, but yeah, is one of the harder tricks in the run to get consistently.
The one good thing, though, is it doesn't really waste any time to go for it because you have to build that thing anyway. So it's worth just a flyer attempt, even if you're not super confident.
For sure. And Rebel Attack, the main thing here, it's all about torpedo management. So the player 2 ship, the Y-Wing, is able to hold on to 5 torpedoes at once, which means in total you can have 8 between your 2 players, which is super useful because the groups of torpedoes here, the things you're trying to hit with your torpedoes, they're all in groups of 4. So having 8 obviously is a multiple of 4. That's pretty nice.
Though there is a bit of an alternate strat towards the end of the second room called the Mikey Torpedo, where you kind of, instead of doing the imbalance 3 with one ship, 5 with the other, you go out and get an extra one while it's shooting, which is a bit faster.
And coming into the last room, Zach got it so quickly we didn't even have a chance to talk about it, but there is an out of bounds in the third room of this level that allows you to skip the last 2 of the sets of 4 torpedoes. We'll see it here next from Jared. Once he gets into the next room, we super right behind him. That's the main. I guess that's the main flashy part of the level, since a lot of the rest is just 1P2C good optimization. Jared does land it pretty quickly there.
Yeah. There's just a little bit of a gap between the end of the collision of that wall and the transition to the previous room. So you want to like narrowly find your way in between those 2 things, and then you can get out of bounds.
Did look like Ginger lost his helmet there. He had to go for the backup before he does the backtrack there.
Yeah. Thankfully, though, with the Ripmore skip out of bounds, it doesn't lose as much as it used to lose your helmet in this level. Because, you know, we have that backup, we can just go, you know, only about 10 seconds to get that one. The old one, it was very difficult to get your new helmet and actually keep it when we had to do it in the previous room. And interesting that Ginger is keeping player 2. I have not seen this strat before.
Yeah, I think another top runner, E-Roadhouse, does this as well. So basically this is just to save a dropout. That's the only advantage of this. So you're saving about 0.7 seconds, and in return you have to do like an extra minute of 1P2C. So it's a very small time save that takes a lot of extra work to get, but you know, you do it right, you do get the 0.7 second time save. So, you know, I suppose that's worth something.
Yeah, it just shows the lengths people will go to find a new optimization in this game. We've, you know, poured over everything countless times, looking for any strat we can.
So starting at this episode, if you remember in the past, like going back to episode 1, at the end of the episode, after beating Darth Maul, there was that Gungan celebration cutscene. So there's 2 cutscenes at the end of each episode. We kind of have like an epilogue cutscene that we call the finished story cutscene. But the game saves before that cutscene plays. So for the longer finished story cutscenes that we see at the end of episodes 4, 6, and 3, you can actually restart the game after the game saves, as long as you wait for it to save. And then you're able to restart the game and skip that cutscene entirely. So that's what we just saw Zach do. He's into episode 6 now. Jared is in the middle of restarting his game. We super just about to restart his game.
And this reset also does conveniently put you right next to the shop, which is pretty good for movement. We're going to see them buy the 2 red bricks they picked up in episode 4, Fast Force and Tractor Beam.
And while we're in that shop trip, we actually had another donation come in from another member of the community. Bacon Soda over in Sweden sends $25 with the comment, "An amazing cause, an amazing cast. Love you all." Thank you, Bacon. Glad to hear from you, buddy.
All right, and now this level coming up, Jabba's Palace, has some of the most precise skips in the game. A couple of out-of-bounds clips that we'll see later. But at the start, we have another little helmet management section, this time with a bounty hunter helmet instead of a stormtrooper. Thankfully, with some other skip discoveries, we only need it for the very beginning of the level, so it's not a big concern anymore. But it, you know, back in the old days, it was the helmet management was a big part of this level.
Yeah, so on top of using the bounty hunter panels, which is the thing that we use the helmet for, it also gives you access to thermal detonators, which are supposed to be used to blow up shiny metallic objects that require an explosion. But fortunately, Zach is going to have a little bit of trouble here. He did not get to finish building the speaker, which de-aggroes all the enemies in the room. I don't think I've seen that problem ever.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I think it's the first time I've ever seen that happen. He should be fine.
Yeah, I think he dealt with the problem.
Yeah, that is a... I don't know how to back that up. I don't think anyone knows how to back that up. That was just kind of a winged thing there. But yeah, that looked fine.
And past this point, you don't need the helmet anymore. It's fine if he gets shot.
Yeah, because like we were saying, exploding blaster bolts takes care of the metal objects entirely, so you don't need the helmet for thermal detonators. It's just for the one door there. That's the only door that we actually open. On Jared's side, we'll see what was actually supposed to happen. You build the speaker, and all of the enemy Gamorrean guards just start rocking out to the music. They all de-aggro. You don't have to worry about them accidentally knocking your helmet off there for a minute. Takes no time to build the speaker because of 1P2C, so it's a nice little strat there that everyone goes for.
And now Zach is coming up on one of the first of the precise skips in this level. It's called Droid Avoid. There's a little forcible object next to the wall up here, and he's just gonna kind of use it to clip Chewie out of bounds. That was very fast.
Yeah. Normally you're supposed to rescue the droids here, but we avoid doing that by clipping out of bounds. Hence the name of the trick, Droid Avoid. We do love our alliterations here.
And now this next skip for Zach called Spiderless, because we used to do the same out of bounds, but we had to grab one of those spiders walking around, and it took a while to get them up there. Now we can clip without it, very precise. And then he's going to do the second part of the trick after, called Rancor Warp, where normally you have to use a bounty hunter panel to get yourself into the Rancor fight, and there's like a 40-second mid-tro cutscene. But if you jump into this little grate, you'll see ahead there's a transition that just takes you straight to the end fight without even watching the cutscene right there.
One of the greatest accidental discoveries of this game's history for sure. The Rancor Warp there.
Yeah, shout out to Led Astray. As interesting, we super doing Droid Avoid with Leia, whereas we saw Zach do it with Chewie. It's just a preference thing with that. It's not significantly easier with one or the other.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, they have the exact same hitbox. It just looks a little different visually, which for some of the visual cues, especially for Spiderless here, can just help you get it a little better. Zach ending the Rancor boss fight there. Going into the next level, the Great Pit of Carcoon, one of the least liked levels in the game. And we'll see why here in a moment. Ginger joining the party here in episode 6. Ooh, Jared having a little bit of trouble getting the Rancor to grab the Gamorrean there.
Yeah. This fight, it probably looks like pretty auto-scroller, but it's not. Like, you can manipulate the Rancor's lines based on where you put the Gamorrean guards. And it's especially important at the start. Like, it's hard to get him to take the most direct path to the bomb. Like, it's a pretty narrow window you have to place that Gamorrean guard for him to do what you want him
to. And we actually just got another donation from another TCS community member, Raffo. Thank you for the $20, Raffo. Appreciate it. Shoutouts to Raffo. All right, we get the unfortunately sort of common experience of having 4 runners in a race all in cutscenes at the same time. But fortunately, we'll be out of a cutscene here in a moment as soon as Luke is done with his shenanigans here. Into the Great Pit of Carcoon, or Carcoon as we normally call it.
Yeah, and I guess the most important thing in this first section is going to be the fight with Boba Fett at the end of these first skiffs. But a bit of like parkour, he's got to jump from the first skiff to the second, Nicely done. And there's a lot of different ways you can approach this Boba fight. I honestly don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah, we sometimes see he's going to go for the camera pan skip. Okay. And that allows you to skip the camera pan and get a lot of hits off on Boba pretty quickly. Unfortunately, a couple of shots whiffed there, but still was able to kill the boss quickly.
And making use of another one of like a Han Solo unique move. After the jump roll, you can do a triple shot where he'll like shoot 3 times right in quick succession, and that can be useful on bosses to do a bunch of damage quickly.
Zach coming up on another skip here in a moment. So normally you have to pull 3 different levers to let these 3 platforms out to get past this gap at the end right here, but you'll see he just pulled 2 of them there. We actually skipped the lever that's up top, hence the name of the skip, topless. And he's then able to cross the gap with a very precise jump there. It's a lot harder than it looks. You need to get a pretty late jump off of a sliding and avoid like a sliding collision on that first platform, and then space the jump super well on top of that. Significantly less precise though in this room.
So for Wii Super, we have a different strat for this Boba fight. This is another one of those triggers where player 2 will not trigger it, so you just send them ahead with Chewie, who can do a bunch of punches like right in at the start of the cutscene, and that can do most of Boba's damage before that starts.
Zach coming up on Disco Skip. This is similar to the tech that allowed Trap Skip to work. You build an object and it clips you through the wall. It's about the same amount of precision here, but the advantage is you're able to rebuild the speaker, so you can go for it again and again and again. Hopefully we don't see too many runners going for it again and again and again here, because it is a pretty precise trick. You can sometimes miss it quite a few times. But that was a second try from Zach, which for a race, perfectly reasonable. Jared will be next up to attempt it here. See if the disco is kind to him today. Just barely misses it first try there.
And yeah, this end platform that Zach is doing, also some very difficult 1P2C gameplay, having to like push the boxes and manage enemies with both players at the same time. Looks like he did that pretty well.
And Jared on the 4th try disco. Wii Super was able to cover the gap between the 2 of them in the meantime because of the disco here. See if he can take advantage of that. And he does get it first try. He's able to pass Jared now. I think this is 6th try with Jared. Oh, man. This actually happened in the tournament to Jared not too long ago.
Yeah.
That we're having. And yeah, this is just another classic example of disco skip. One of the reasons why runners don't like this level very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you're Jared, I'm sure he's rather this is happening here in this race than in a PB attempt. Because this, he's had some pretty good fortune recently in his record attempts with that trick. So I'm glad that the disco skip moment saved itself for this run.
Yeah, and you know, it could be worse. That was only like 8th try.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot worse than 8th try before. So, we're now into Speeder Showdown, the 3rd level of this episode, which is supposed to be one of the longest levels in the game. But fortunately, we're able to skip almost the entirety of the level, and it's like the 2nd shortest original trilogy level as a result. Shout outs to Speeder Skip, biggest skip in the game coming up. After hitting this cutscene here on Zach's side, you'll see these 2 speeders come out. He's able to get on both of them, and he jams them into a corner over here on the right. He can gain just enough height to do a backflip over this barrier and skip the entire long, drawn-out speeder race course thing that you otherwise have to play. Definitely, like, probably the best thing about any percent is the fact that we don't have to play that room. Can't imagine playing the game with that room. It's not a good room.
Yeah, and making use of a little piece of tech where if you are in a vehicle and you drop out, instead of actually dropping out, what it does is it just like ejects your player from the vehicle and you jump away in the air. The skip is possible without that tech, but it definitely makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, so instead of having to do the main part of the level being the speeder track, now the main part of the level is this little encounter at the end where you need to get rid of all these shield things. I'm not actually sure what these are. I don't think this is in the movie. But, you know. Wii Super coming up on speeder skip here now. We'll see if he can get it first try as well. With this skip, you definitely usually see first try. Sometimes there's some people will have issues, but it's pretty uncommon misses on that trick. And after Speeder Showdown, we head into the Battle of Endor, which I think is usually considered to be a pretty good level in this game. Most people like Endor. It's a pretty long level. It's one of the longest levels, in fact. And it's also just full of so much strats and skips and optimizations. Definitely a cool level.
And so Wii Super on the end platform of Speeder still. There is an interesting strat he's going to do up ahead. Normally you have these camera pans when you pull the levers, and not much you can do about them, but you can up here. He's going to jump out of the speeder with player, or the AT-AT with player 1, and that's going to have the AT-AT walk all the way back. So now he's like facing more towards the destroyed objects there. I'm not sure what they are, but with that little the jumping out, you can get that movement to happen during the cutscene. It's a little faster.
We'll see Ginger here in a moment coming up on the disco skip. We'll see if he's able to take advantage of a little mishap that Jared had and save a bit of time here to Jared. Maybe make that gap slightly smaller. We'll have to see. Doesn't need a first try here. You know, getting a second try would probably be fine as well. See if he's able to manage that.
Nice.
Gets it first, though. He's happy to see that, I'm sure. Back up on Zach's screen. Beginning of Endor here, you go through the little Ewok village thing, but you're supposed to build these bridges. Fortunately, you can just land on these railings and fly across with R2-D2 and skip this whole room, because there's nothing at the end that you need to solve. There's no required puzzles in this room, so just getting to the end of the room skips all the intended puzzles in there. This room, though, you do need to do the intended puzzle. The trigger to leave the room does not load in until you've beaten the room. So we'll get Wicked up top there, our Ewok friend, to push that box.
So yeah. One thing to know about Endor is that the AI in this level is like really bad, and sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. There's a lot of skips that take advantage of the really bad AI, but there's also a lot of things that, like, problems we have to avoid. But thankfully we've mostly figured out like very specific ways to manage our characters that avoid those issues.
And that skip right there, hill roll, actually can cause one of the issues. We'll see if, yeah, he does.
And there it is. Yeah. Okay. Never mind. C-3PO sometimes will not follow you up ahead, which is bad because you need him to use this panel. I think that time you would have was just a little slow to the party.
Yeah, but Zach went around to check just to make sure he didn't get 3PO stuck and have to backtrack all the way to the beginning to grab him. You may have missed it, but at the end of the last room, Zach did jump off the edge right as the end of the room trigger hit and was able to get Ghost Hearts as a result. So he is invincible, which allows him to deal with enemies a lot better throughout this level.
Yeah, very important, especially considering how long the level is. That's like 5 minutes of invincibility gameplay.
Right, coming into the next room here, I'm curious if he's going to go for a new strat or not. Ooh, he is.
Yes.
Oh, this is a very, very new strat. So if you manipulate your characters in a specific way, you can force them out of bounds. So Chewbacca's currently, or sorry, Han Solo currently out of bounds, dropped in warp to out of bounds. And now that he's out of bounds, he can go under the floor and skip this next room. But it's pretty precise. You kind of need to jump up directly inside of the door.
Oh.
Or jump back in bounds and
Yep.
then do it the other way. That works as well.
And I don't know if he shot these big gates behind. Yeah.
This is a kind of a big deal, actually. Just to backtrack a bit.
Yeah, so these big gates are another EVB time save. You would need to like use a big catapult and grab that ATST to shoot those, but you can just blow them right up. Now he's going to do the other skip that is sort of the normal skip. First of all, we have Paul skip, which will, it's a good example of bad AI. If he just goes up in this corner, he will get the other characters on top of the bunker. They'll just follow him as if he's up there.
And then we have a super jump immediately afterwards because you can set a respawn on top of the bunker. And, okay, that's bad. You don't want to die there.
Yeah, one consequence of Zach missing that skip is he got rid of his ghost hearts on Han.
Yeah, normally you have ghost hearts still. You'll see. Anyway, so he does a super jump and he gets through the door there. So he's able to bypass the normal strat where you build like a panel to get open the door or something like that. Haven't seen that in a while. We've been doing that super jump for a while now. We'll see it on Wii Super side now. Wii Super also having issues with resetting a spawn point.
Yeah, he also does not have ghost hearts. I didn't see what happened to that.
Yeah, he must have just mistimed it or something. Not a room that you usually see this many problems in. Seen a lot of difficulties with this. This is definitely an opportunity for Jared to pull a little bit of time back on the other two runners from that disco skip fiasco from earlier. We'll see if he is able to get this super jump nice and quickly. So, haven't explained it too well yet, but you can push Leia into this corner, which makes the AI think that she's stuck, tries to jump back to the respawn point on top, intersects with the transition stops the super jump. You can swap to her and immediately enter the room.
And on Zach's screen, we're going to see another AI manipulation, Wicket's Grand Adventure, where you just kind of walk into that corner and pan the camera right. Wicket will like think you're in that room with the lever, and you skip building the little vent that he needs to crawl through.
Yeah, you do need him to get off camera for that, since we're not allowed to see how he got back there. That's his own little secret. But we're almost done with this bunker. This is one of the longest rooms in the game. Currently, and actually, it's impossible to skip. There's no possible way to skip this just because of how it's set up. So we have to pull all these levers to activate these two levers, and then that allows us to end the level.
And there are a lot of camera pan skips in the level that have just been going on. Jared just did one with an interesting setup using R2. But now we'll see. There's a couple in this room. We'll see if he can get them first. Every time you pull a lever, there's a camera pan. And they are all, in theory, skippable. Nice job from him with that well-timed dropout.
Yeah, this last one here up top is the hardest one to get. You kind of need your players to be in specific spots. So if the AI is a little too fast, you can sometimes have trouble with it. Though it looks like Wicket is on the ground, which is usually a good sign. We'll see if he... Yeah, he could be in a good spot here for this. Oh,
yeah.
He does gets it. Wow. That's a hard one to get.
Yeah,
So cool
pretty
to see that.
Unfortunately, does have to do this ending with Wicket, who is slow.
Very slow character, yeah.
But it does, I think, not actually matter because you're just waiting for Han on those farther back builds.
Yeah. And we're about to enter Jedi Destiny, another very short level, and that's because it's supposed to be a gigantic boss fight, but there's a way to skip the boss fight, which essentially skips the whole level. Therefore, the level ends up having the least amount of gameplay out of all of the levels in the game, though it has a lot of cutscenes, like 2 minutes of cutscenes. And during that, we do have a quick donation I want to get in from Build Nye. We got $5 with a comment. I love LEGO Star Wars: The Complete Saga speedruns. Great cause and great runners. Thank you, Build Nye.
And now Zach, the first to enter the gameplay of this level. I think we will see two different setups. Zach doing it on the right. He's just going to lure the Emperor all the way down there, and there's just a little gap he can push him through. Doing those slashes to hold him in place so you can get a better handle on him, and pushes him right off the edge. Movie accurate, Skip.
Yeah, that is the ultra kill there. And that boss fight, I mean, you saw how many hearts the Emperor had. That was 20 hearts, I think. That's a very long level. Well, it's not, I mean, it's like 4 minutes or something casually. But, you know, in the speedrun, it's like 2 minutes and something. So, it saves a ton of time to do that boss fight skip there. We'll see a left side from Wii Super here. I would bet on it, absolutely.
Yep. And yeah, he's going to let the Emperor hit him for down to 1 heart at the start so that he will do this triple attack and like wander forward in the process.
Ooh, clean left side. No safety slashes from Justin.
And now Jared on right side also gets it.
Yeah, that's good to see. You don't tend to see misses on that trick too often, but some interesting things can happen there on occasion. So it's good to see everyone getting the trick first try. No problems there.
That skip is interesting because the developers do have the ability to make it so that when you push a boss off the edge, they just like come back and survive. But they very specifically left it out for that boss fight. I'm left to assume that that was just intentional because it's like what happens in the movie.
It's definitely convenient because it would, like I said, it would be a 2 minute longer level if you couldn't do that. It saves a ton of time.
Yeah.
And yeah, none of the other bosses in the game, except for like one maybe, have the ability to kill them like that. So pretty interesting design choice there from TT Games. Into the level, into the Death Star here. This is where that tractor beam extra comes in handy. So that was the one we picked up in episode 4 by jumping through the ceiling on the pipe in Rescue the Princess. Basically, tractor beam, when enemies get close to you in vehicle levels, they get sucked up in a tractor beam, which prevents them from running away from you and also makes them a lot easier to kill. And in this room, you need to get all these torpedoes from the TIE bombers, which don't spawn in too often. It's like a 1 in 3 TIE fighter is a TIE bomber, and sometimes they'll run away from you. So having that tractor beam just helps with consistency in this room quite a bit. Since it takes basically no time to get in Rescue the Princess, it ends up saving a bit of time in this level.
Yeah. And we see something interesting Wii Super just did. If you collect a torpedo on the same exact frame with both ships, you actually duplicate the torpedo and both players get it. So that's another little time save, very difficult to do consistently, but you know, something worth going for if you have a good setup.
Man, I love the sound of tractor beam. It's just so loud.
Yeah, tractor beam is one of the extras that power-ups give you, so this sound I just always associated with power-ups. I didn't really realize until we started doing it in runs that is tractor beam making the noise.
Yeah, and unfortunately we're going to continue having the sound for the rest of the level because there's no reason to turn off tractor beam despite that room being the only place where it really matters in the whole run. We'll get a nice little respite from it here though in the cutscene. But Zach is inside the Death Star now, and you have to be pretty precise with how you target these targets here, because the targeting of the torpedoes tends to be pretty not great, especially if you're not facing the right direction. So a lot of the movements here are pretty important to prevent wild torpedoes running and blanking on things you don't want them to hit. Let's see if he's able to hit these two quickly as well. Looks good.
Yeah, and now we have the core section. It's important not to stay too close to those like turrets on the side they're shooting, because they will like zap you and freeze you in place.
going to open this door over here to get the second to last red brick of the run. This is infinite torpedoes, which does exactly what it sounds like. It gives you infinite number of torpedoes, so you don't need to go and collect them. It's super useful in a couple levels in the game, but unfortunately we can't have them for a lot of them. Like, it'd be very nice to have in this level, into the Death Star, but it's in this level, so we can't have it here. But there is one level in episode 5 we use it for, and it's super duper helpful in that level. So we'll talk more about that once we get to episode 5. Looks like Jared's having a little bit of trouble hitting these targets in the core here.
He's not gonna get the brick. Oh, I think he got the brick. Okay.
I don't know if he got the brick.
It was so close. So, yeah. Okay, that brick, that room ends, like, you shoot the torpedo at the big core target in the middle, and then you wait like 5-10 seconds, I don't know what it is, and then it ends. So runners will sometimes like shoot that target, then go get the brick. Jared played that a little risky. I think he didn't know he still had a torpedo target left to open the door. So he like got the brick. I think he got the brick. He might not have gotten it though. We're just gonna have to see.
We'll have to see. If he doesn't, that's gonna lose him a ton of time in Falcon Flight in episode 5, and that is a huge opportunity for Ginger to pull back some time there once they get there. Assuming Ginger gets infinite torpedoes, which is the expected thing that would normally happen. So another reset of the game after that level completes, and we'll enter everyone's favorite level, the battle over Coruscant, the true auto-scroller level in the game. Though it's a little more interesting than a true auto-scroller, I guess.
Yeah. Ooh, nice torpedo dupe from Ginger on the first one. That's cool to see. Yeah, did he? No. Yeah, he's getting...
Wow,
okay.
That's a ton of torpedoes.
Yeah, it was a little slow going at the start, but they just all showed up at once when he needed them.
Yeah, he just needs one more now to finish off the room. And there it is, right on time. Unfortunately, he has them all in the same ship, so it's going to be a little harder to shoot him quickly, but gets a beeline target on that first one, so no problem there. So yeah, battle over Coruscant. It's completely on rails, but there is a small time save you can do. By having both players in, you can wedge one player in front of the next player, and also hug corners. So you'll see Zach is going into the corners, kind of hugging the camera, and doing those things combined, both the 1P2C and the camera hugging, moves the game around like the corners of the track a little bit faster, so it ends up saving a couple seconds over the course of the whole level. Which is, you know, in an on-rails level, I suppose that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. It gives you just enough to, like, you know, make you have to focus the whole way through. Also, you know, you don't want to die. That's the one time loss that can happen. You know, there's ships shooting at you, and I think it's random whether or not they'll give you a heart drop if you kill them. So sometimes you can just kind of get a dry spell on the hearts and get hit a few times and take a death, which generally is pretty bad.
Yeah, the deaths, there's set respawns in the level, so there are points where if you take a death, you lose like upwards of 30 seconds. It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Though it's not as bad as it would probably look like, because also when you take a death, the section that you like are replaying because you died, you move through faster and there's no enemies. So when we did one player, there was a strat where we would take an intentional death at the very beginning of like the longest checkpoint section, so that we would get that speed boost for the whole thing, and it actually saved like 4 seconds. So not all deaths are created equal for sure.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we don't see any though. None of them are fast when you're doing 2-player.
So this is, we're in episode 3 now. I guess we didn't say that yet. So far we've played episodes 1, 2, 4, 6, and 3, and then we'll end on episode 5. I mentioned it a bit earlier, and so did Anonymous, but the main reason we do that is for the extras. This episode gains big time saves from having the fast force and the exploding blaster bolts extras, which is kind of why we want to play it later. But it's also easier, mostly considered to be easier than episode 6, and those two are the only 2 episodes in the route that don't really have dependencies in each other's, but that's the reason why we play it this late. Coming up on Zach's screen, that is a red brick. Zach did pick it up. Don't let him tell you otherwise. That is the Vehicle Smart Bombs red brick, which is something we'll use in episode 5. Oh, Zach's trying to pull. See, I got ahead of this because I know Zach very well. He's trying to pull the bit here where he's pretending like he missed the red brick. Don't let him fool you. I saw this coming.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Anyway, the level's almost over. Zach just took a ton of damage on player 1 there, and player 2's eating all the hearts.
Yeah, player 1, this is a little scary. Okay,
All right.
Gets a hard drop.
He's good now.
So yeah, the great thing about these last, he just dropped out. What is
Yeah, because
going
player 1 went back to 1 heart.
Oh, yeah, okay. Interesting. Interesting. What I was saying, the last couple extras, Infinite Torpedoes and Vehicle Smart Bomb, are really nice because they help mitigate really big RNG sections. So, I mean, we'll talk about that when we get there, but those 2 sections still do have some RNG, but when you can play them faster, the maximum time loss is a lot lower.
Yeah, it is great that the last episode in the run is the only episode that contains 2 heavily RNG-based levels.
Yeah.
Very, very cool how that worked out, but, you know, it is what it is. And Zach is now into another pretty difficult level, Chancellor in Peril. So he has to rescue the Chancellor here, and there's a lot of micro RNG in this level just because of how often you can take deaths to enemies here. There's a ton of enemies in these rooms, and it's really easy to die on accident.
And this is where, like, an underrated benefit of Fast Force comes in, where, like, yeah, you get the time save because you force the thing faster, but also because you're forcing it faster, there's less opportunity to get shot during the force, and that would be a huge problem with a couple of these early forces in this level.
I don't think I've ever seen a less cooperative Droideka than what I just saw there. That lost quite a bit of time there for Zach. But now he has R2-D2 here.
And I think we're gonna see a weird, like a rare strat from Zach.
Oh yeah, maybe. I forgot about this one. We'll see if he goes for it. Looks like he's setting up for it.
Let's see. Yep.
Oh, he does get it. Oh, the drop in warp out of bounds here. Let's
That's
see. Oh, he does
okay.
hit it. Let's go. That is a small time save. Doesn't save a ton of time there, but it is faster, and it's a pretty cool one, too. One of the more recent discoveries in the game. And we'll get to see another cool strat here. Unfortunately, this is like the worst collection of droids I've ever seen in this room, but
Oh, that worked.
another super jump here, much like the ones we've seen previously. Force R2 once he's out of bounds here. Go up some collision, get back in bounds, nicely done. Skips the whole boss fight there with Dooku. Oh, and Jared actually jumps ahead of Wii Super again there, saving some time towards the beginning.
And it's very close between the two. We will see who has a faster setup for this skit. And that looks like advantage Jared. Well, nope, spoke too soon. But
Yeah.
he has to actually get it now.
They both get it. See if they can get up the slope quickly. Ooh, wow, that was so wow, both really fast.
Okay.
Wow. We get a cool strat in the next room, but they're on different players. Justin is on player 1, and so they have a little bit of different character management. They're both going to go for this drop-in warp around the same time here. Justin actually doesn't get the drop-in.
Yeah. Thankfully, there's another one of those vents, like, just ahead that you can do the same thing as a little backup, so it didn't lose too much time.
doing some cool parkour here to get around the gas. Since it only extends to where it visibly is, you don't actually need to do the puzzle to activate it, since all you need to end this room is R2-D2, who is not phased by whatever gas that is. Into the last room we go. Oh,
Ooh,
Zach is having a disaster. I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so normally you're trying to beat this last room without killing the enemies, but if you wait too long, the Magna Guards catch up, and yeah, that's a problem, or at least it can be.
Yeah, and they have like 5 or 6 health, which like most enemies have 1, maybe 2. So it's, you know, you don't really want to have to kill them. So when they show up, it's hard to avoid them.
Surely we'll see a more textbook example here from one of the 2 runners, or both of them, since it's
Yeah.
pretty uncommon for the last room to go poorly like that. That should be fine. It's a little bit slow on both ends, but not in a way that matters that much. We got another donation from another community member, our good friend Appleman from Way Down Under. $15 with the comment, "My lay goats." That is so true. A lot of goats on display here.
And now we're coming into General Grievous, another boss fight level that we can mostly skip, though I think they're not going to do it. There is a strat where you switch your resolution to do this fight faster. I think setup-wise, it's easier to just play the fight normally mostly, though.
Yeah, previous pace experiences have had some issues with that strat, so
Yeah.
we're going for a gentleman's doing a different strat here.
Yeah. You can still do the strat without the resolution change, but it is less consistent. And here is the strat. You're seeing Zach do it to skip just the last part of the fight, and very cleanly. You can... So, Grievous, you see the like cycles of the fight going on in the other 2 runners, where you'll do a couple hearts of damage, he jumps away, you gotta go hit him and bring him back. But he only like triggers the cycle to jump away if you are standing above the main platform. So you want to do damage while you are not on the platform. So that's what they're gonna do. You'll see in the bottom right, Jared is gonna get both his players on the side rock here, and then just start shooting away, and you just hope that he doesn't deflect the shot.
Yeah, unfortunately there's a lot of variance in this strat, and there's also some hardware variance, which normally the changing your resolution to something very potato tends to fix, but like we said, not doing that here because it probably will break the stream. So on to the next level here, Defensive Kashyyyk. Probably people's favorite episode 3 level, just by more so by default.
Yeah.
Because there's some levels that are pretty tricky and inconsistent in this episode, but Defensive Kashyyyk is not one of them. It's a hard execution level. There's not a ton of variance. It's basically just how well you play the level.
Yeah. And you see Yoda again, super unique movement level just because of Yoda. You see, his faster movement speed coming into play a lot. And there's going to be a lot of 2-player strats. First room just trying to kill the troopers holding the Wookiees hostage, and we have some optimized 2-player strats to just use Yoda to get the movement, drop in Chewie, shoot the guys real quick.
Yeah, now that we have all the Wookiees freed, we can press these buttons at the end. It's actually possible to press these buttons without rescuing some of the Wookiees because the enemy stormtroopers are capable of stepping on those buttons. However, it is just not fast like ever. It's a cool strat, but it's awful and it's not fast. So, not gonna see that in runs. But we'll be on to the end of the beach here, and we are able to shoot some targets up top from a distance without having to actually go to the platform up there with Chewbacca. Exploding blaster bolts makes that a little bit easier as well.
And one thing about the movement in this level that is quite impactful is that the characters are 2 very different speeds. And you see, like on Zach's screen, Yoda is running way ahead of Chewie. And so you have to kind of manage that your screen is being constantly stretched by that movement.
And a side effect of that is if player 1 gets dropped out by the camera, that can cause some weird control input issues later on in the future. So the runners need to kind of pay attention to that, especially in this level, and especially towards the end here that Zach is approaching. It's really easy to get your players to stretch the camera beyond what you normally want towards the end here.
Coming up on the end, it's really just enemy management at this point. You have a couple of forces you have to deal with, and you see Zach kind of shot himself because he was trying to shoot the enemies. That's one of the difficult things with all the enemies around and exploding blaster bolts. Very difficult to play that perfectly.
Absolutely. Next up after this level is Ruin of the Jedi. A level that used to be ton of movement optimization. It was a super cool level actually, but now there's a skip that skips all of the cool movement optimizations. Makes the level a lot faster, but it's a little bit less consistent now, at least sometimes. We'll see that here in a moment. But yeah, it's another level that has Yoda in it, so we're going to see some more Yoda movement here off the bat. And there's also a cutscene that plays when you force open this door at the beginning of the room. But if you're fast enough, you can get a jump slash into the transition to interrupt the cutscene there. And he does land that.
Yeah. And I think we'll see a jump off of this like red staircase that you're supposed to force, but if you just jump straight off, very well done by Zach. That is pretty difficult skip, at least for like the 1 second it saves.
Yeah, it's a lot harder than it looks. The spacing there is kind of weird. The angle's weird too.
Yeah, and again, like Yoda is not a character we're used to doing most of our precise jumps with. So that trick kind of stands as a one-off.
Onto the library here. We're going to do the infamous library skip. First, we need to clear out all these enemies. But Zach's going to be careful not to mess up his camera too much, because messing up your camera does make the drop and warp harder. And if you're going too far left and right, your camera gets a little out of sync of where it's supposed to be, and that does change the difficulty here. We'll see if he's able to get it first try. Very precise drop and warp. Does land it first try, though. And that's basically the whole level. It's a pretty short level when you're skipping that whole room there, because that's the bulk of the level is the library. Got to see first try on that red staircase jump from both Wii Super and Jared as well. Good to see no misses there. See if they're able to continue that no miss into their library skip attempts.
And yeah, Zach is coming into now the last level of episode 3, Darth Vader. This is interesting. It's the last level of the prequels game, Lego Star Wars, the video game. And that makes it like a kind of a final boss level where you're fighting against Anakin as he turns evil. So interesting thing to know about this level is that if you take a death anywhere, it will completely reset the room you're in. So very punishing level.
Jared, I'm curious to see if this will work first try. He very much messed up his camera quite a bit, so we'll see if he's able to land this first try here. Yeah, I was not expecting that to work. He's going to do a little movement to fix the camera, see if that works. Does land a second try. Yeah, so into the Darth Vader, like Anonymous was saying, a lot of these rooms are just played the intended way with some extra 1P2C to speed up some rooms.
Yeah, the most, the biggest skip that we do is probably this drop and warp in the first room that we'll see we super do in a second, where you want to go turn around for a bit at the beginning, and that'll deload the other character. And then if you drop in at the right time, you can call them in at the end of the room.
Looks like he lands it, yeah. Textbook there. And Zach entering the last room. Once again, dying in this room resets the room, and there's a pretty... there's a jump at the end of this room that is as hard as you want to make it. Going fast, the jump is actually pretty tricky, and it's not uncommon, even at the high level, to see runners miss this jump. We've seen it quite a few times recently, in fact.
This was like,
Oh,
what? Oh,
yeah.
Zach.
A little slippery there for Zach.
I mean, yeah, this jump like ruined a world record pace run like what, 2 days ago.
Yeah,
So.
that's true. That's true.
And yeah, I mean, very punishing to miss it. That's the big thing.
That should work. Yeah.
And now this end fight is interesting. It has your two characters fighting each other, and what you can do to speed it up is basically like lose on purpose with one player called in. The other, you like keep swapping, so the other player will just be constantly attacking. And then at the very end, you call in player 2 so that the game thinks you're like two different people playing it against each other. It's a weird one because like it's supposed to work differently if you're 2 players versus 1 player. Like 1 player, you have to win the fight, but if it's your 2 players are in, they're fighting against each other, and it's, you know, whoever wins wins. So you want to call in at the last second so that you losing the fight can still end the level.
And we're going to see another shop trip here from Zach. He's buying 2 extras, both infinite torpedoes that he picked up in episode 6, as well as vehicle smart bombs that he did grab in episode 3. Get to combine those 2 shop trips there. Save some time. We'll get to see Ginger coming up on his library skip here in a moment. So far, we've gotten 2 first tries and a second try. No library skip major mishaps or malfunctions there. Just the one miss, which isn't that big of a deal. Obviously, it loses some time, but in a race like this, you're all right with that. The rest of the runners are entering the Hoth Battle opening cutscene here, which narrates about 40 minutes of the movie before we actually get into gameplay.
Yeah, this is the longest cutscene in the game at about 1:40.
I feel like they could have made something with these parts.
Yeah.
Of the,
Oh, Ginger still has a trooper alive. That is not going to work.
Or it does work, I guess.
Well, you killed it. So that's...
And while we're waiting around, we actually did get another donation from another top runner in this game, our good friend Frostbite, $25 with the message, I used my calc to determine these runners will finish sub 230. Calc is short for calculator. I'm just using slang. Thank you, Frostbite, for anyone new to chat, for that explanation of that abbreviation. Appreciate it.
And yeah, Zach entering gameplay. First room here is like a bomb escort. You got to get this bomb all the way to the end without any of these rocks blowing it up. I think it's probably difficult casually, but in a speed run, it's nothing.
And this next room is supposed to have a lot of bomb towing, but you can actually skip most of it. We're doing a backflip drop in here that drops in player 2 inside the collision of the barrier. You can quickly go across it there. And this, after turning on these extras, right, okay. After turning on these extras, he will then go over this barrier. Just got a telltale sign confirming that Zach will be going for a very new strat that has never been done in a full game run, as far as I'm aware, towards the end of the run. So I'm excited about that. Super unfortunately missing the barrier skip there. Gets it quickly, a second try though.
You know, I forgot we had some questions on if Jared got infinite torpedoes. He either has bought it or not. We'll see for sure though when he goes to turn it on.
Yeah, and we haven't explained what vehicle smart bombs does yet. That was the extra picked up in Battle Over Coruscant. If you look at Zach's screen, you'll see the screen is shaking and all the enemies are dying very quickly. In vehicle levels, if you hold down the special button, it will just bombard the entire screen with bombs, and that kills every enemy on screen and a couple of enemies barely off screen, which allows you to clear through these first couple waves of the Hoth battle level here very quickly. Though unfortunately it does not kill these bigger AT-ATs, so you do need to tow them and hit them with a bomb for them to actually die. But fortunately there's only 3 of those we need to kill, so that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. And the optimization here for these guys is to wrap with one player while player 2 just gets the bomb and splashes it right into them when they fall.
Just one more wave for Zach here. There's 4 waves. You have the probe droid wave and the ATSTs, the 2 AT-ATs, and then a combo platter last wave here that has a little bit of all the enemies. Not getting any ATSTs on screen, that's unfortunate. Those tend to be slow. There was a couple over there now can go kill. It looks like they were kind of all clumped together. We'll see if he can find this last one. Does manage to, that's good. Kind of cool, we've had a clump of runners here. There hasn't really been another disaster since Ginger's pod fraud mishap, so it's a very close race right now. It can absolutely be anyone's game at this point.
Yeah, small thing just happened on Jared's screen. He was like too close to the entrance to the arena when the wave started. So that AT-AT wasn't in the arena. Like if you have to like bring him off screen and then come back for him to actually join the arena. So a little bit of a time loss, and he had to circle all the way around to find the other one.
Yeah. Alternatively, you can just wait multiple minutes and eventually the AT-AT will slowly walk itself inbounds. But that is obviously slower.
That's insane. I did not know that.
Yeah, that happened once. Someone did that in a run like back in 2019. That's a deep deep knowledge there.
Yeah. But yeah, you mentioned we haven't had a disaster. There will kind of guaranteed be one. Jared does not have infinite torpedoes, so he will have a fun time playing Falcon Flight, the level after the one we're seeing on Zach's screen, Echo Base.
Yeah, you know, shoutouts to Jared for taking the opportunity to show off the absolute disaster that is Falcon Flight without infinite torpedoes. Yeah. That's not something we get to see too often, so appreciate Jared for taking one for the team there.
Yeah. Thankfully, Jared is an experienced 100% runner, which does include you need to play the Super Story game mode, which is all of the levels in story mode with no extras. So Jared should know the strats there. You could see a bit of an out of bounds that you would not ever see in an 80% run.
And while we're in this gameplay here, quick, another donation from our good friend across the pond, Seedamnastic, $15 worth of comment. Shoutouts to the runners and the commentators. Zach will get Best Spin Community Gold this run. And there's a very good chance he could get the best ever Best Spin done in a run if he's doing the strat that he has telegraphed so far. But do you think he will be doing it?
But you will have to wait to the very end of the run. That is the last level in the game.
Absolutely. In the meantime, here we are in Echo Base. First room is pretty straightforward. Do a bit of a drop in warp to get 3PO closer to the panel here. And we'll see how the rest of this level goes. Sometimes that power-up can despawn, but fortunately no despawn there for Zach. Able to skip that room by just sliding 3PO up that little ledge there. Once again, 3PO not able to jump, but he is able to slide up ledges. Gets the full power-up for the build as well.
And I don't know what's going. I guess player I don't know what's going on for him, but he little bit of controller issues.
Yeah, the classic controller moment there.
It might have been some kind of result of him kind of going back and forth between input devices. He's a primarily double keyboard players, which is like, you know, one player on the left side of the keyboard, the other on the right side. But there's a lot of stuff that either requires or is just much better with a controller. So I think that toggling back and forth leads to some like input issues, or at least it did there.
Unfortunately, he did have the power-up despawn on him, so he lost a little bit of time from not getting the fast build on those builds there. Jared does not have the power-up despawn as long as he picks it up, yeah. See if we can get the little cutscene skip here on Wii Super's side towards the end of this room. If you hit these buttons mid-jump roll while close enough, it's a little too far away, you are able to skip that camera pan there. Well, Zach missed it and Justin also missed it. We'll see if Jared is able to hit that cutscene skip here. You know, I wonder if how much Ginger will be able to make up on Falcon Flight here to Jared. I don't think it'll be enough to completely clear this gap. That's going to depend on how fresh Jared is with his no infinite torpedoes Falcon Flight strats.
Yeah. I mean, I did mention that he should have experience, but that was a couple years ago. So, you know, realistically, I don't expect him to play it super cleanly. But hopefully he has at least enough of an idea.
So the first room of Falcon Flight that Zach just finished up here, pretty straightforward. Just got to shoot the 16 guns on the Star Destroyers, and then the room will end after a little bit of waiting around there. But the rest of the level, casually, involves a lot of torpedo gathering, because obviously with infinite torpedoes, we have infinite torpedoes, but without the infinite torpedoes, the torpedoes that you pick up are in these asteroids that are floating around in space, and they drop randomly. You need to usually destroy quite a few asteroids to get all your torpedoes. But because he has the infinite torpedoes, he's able to skip all these asteroids, just fly through the room straight to the barriers, and go on his merry way without having to deal with the extra variance from the torpedo spawns, at least in this part.
Yeah, and this looks completely straightforward. It's not quite as simple as it looks, because again, the torpedo targeting is just not super like consistent, or at least it's not straightforward at all what it will do. So you have to be very particular about how you approach these barriers in order to get fast targets.
Yeah, and we'll get to see that here again. If he spaces his characters correctly, he should get 2 targets pretty quickly and another 2 right after. And ditto on this last set of targets here.
And Jared, the problem's starting before the torpedoes even come up. He like, you missed one of those turrets, which should be fine because there's a number on the screen that tells you how many you've got, but he was not paying attention to the number. Took a second to realize.
And here is our good friend, the infamous Boulder. So the Boulder has 6 torpedo targets on it, but you can only hit them when they're facing the front. Zach so far has gotten pretty good luck on the first 4, but the direction and speed that the Boulder moves is random, and it looks like that one's going to stay on the top. He might have trouble hitting it. And he still has that one more. Oh, I don't know if he's going to hit that one either. But it looks like he got that one. It's just that one stuck on the back right now. Oh, that rotation is going to keep it on the back.
Oh, okay.
Got a lucky hit, though.
Yeah, sometimes we said it needs to be on the front. Sometimes you get those lucky shots. And that's what saved that from being a bad Boulder. Pretty fine for him. We'll see if Wii Super can do better, though.
Quick donation from our good friend, fellow community member, Yahoodles. $10 with the comment, Dwayne, please. Yes, we do call the Boulder, the big rock at the end, we call it Dwayne for, I would say, obvious reasons. We do hope Dwayne is nice.
Looks like 5 out of 6 for Wii Super. If that last one shows up, yeah, yep. Pretty good Boulder from him. saving a bit of time to Zach.
Yeah, and that'll keep these two neck and neck here into the last 3 levels. We'll have to see if Ginger can pull ahead via his advantage of having infinite torpedoes. You see that Jared's kind of running around getting torpedoes here. Oh, I guess he's going to go into the worm, isn't he? I don't know what the fast strat. I don't know if it's faster to backtrack. I guess we'll see what he ends up doing.
Well, he should know the out of bounds. I guess I don't know if it's been too long that he won't do it. But
yeah, there is
I guess, yeah, if he's...
Okay, he's going to backtrack.
Yeah.
There is an out of bounds you can do to skip these barriers that's only fast if you... oh, that was very fortunate drops there. It's only fast if you don't have infinite torpedoes, but it's not a very well-practiced strat because it's only really used in 100%. Assuming he keeps his hearts here, we'll see if he's able to land all these no blanks.
Yeah, a blank at this point would be a disaster, though I think he is clear of that.
Yeah. All right. Now he just needs to get past Dwayne, which is honestly the worst part of this.
But again, a lot of torpedoes right away. That's good.
Opts to skip that one torpedo back there. Probably should get started on this. I think he hit the 1 and 2 and 3 there. Oh, that one targets. Okay.
Oh,
I
nice.
think he got it. That's a lot of torpedoes.
And he has enough to close this. Meanwhile, Zach did just get Dagobah button skip. We'll see that again on Wii Super's end, where basically you get, there's these buttons that you're supposed to like build and press them, and then the next button will show up. But you can still stand on the buttons even before you like actually activate them. And so what Wii Super is going to do right now is he's going to just go where the buttons are, but like, you know, you can't see them, but that's where the buttons would be.
Ooh, little too far left with R2. Missed that last button.
Yeah.
As long as he's good here, though, he should be fine.
Yeah.
That should be good.
And you do need to do it with R2 because the AI would not follow you otherwise, and you need R2 on this side of the pond for Hut Skip coming up now, where he will just wrap around trying to follow you, and you can call in on the other side of a cutscene trigger.
Yeah, and that's a pretty big trick to be sound on, because missing that, accidentally hitting the cutscene trigger, loses well over a minute, and it is a one-try trick. If you do miss it like that, you cannot try it again. You are stuck in another room. It's a big deal missing that, so it's good. I mean, we barely ever see runners miss it at this level, so hopefully we won't see any in this race either. So far, we're 2 for 2. Looks like Jared had a lot of issue on the last boulder hit, but he was still able to clear out the level. Good chunk ahead of Ginger there.
So yeah, definitely pretty defined placements at this point, but obviously the end of the level, you know, I'd say the hardest level in the game coming up next, and then who knows what we're going to see with a new skip in the last level. Lots to be determined still.
Yeah, and we didn't talk too much about the Vader fight here on Zach's side. This is a really cool fight. You can take advantage of the fact that forcing objects while in cutscenes allows you to move and get your players into better position, and then also take advantage of the arc of that forcible object there to get up a little faster, and also skip this last thing here. A lot of micro time save. That's probably that's my favorite boss fight in the game personally. It's a lot of cool movement. Wow, this is a slow boulder for Ginger.
Yeah.
And they're stuck on opposite sides there. I don't know if that bottom one hit. It didn't. Oh man, that's not what you want to see. Jared with the successful hut skip there. Ginger just getting all of the wrath of Dwayne here.
Yeah, this is about as bad as it gets when it just gets completely stuck on the back. Nothing you can do. And now Zach approaching Cloud City Trap very broken level. This is like a big, encounter with Vader, several different boss fights. Pretty much all of them are skippable.
Yeah, this is the most iconic level in the game, I think, at this point. But people that have only seen this game via the Summoning Salt video or the previous Pace entries might be surprised to find out there is a new strat in this run, new-ish. It's less than a year old at this point. It was found during last Pace. We'll get to see it here in a moment.
Discovered in this very room. Shout out to Viola Guy.
Yeah. So first things first, we get a bit of a super jump to skip this first door. R2 tries to path out of the corner he's in, super jumps, gets stuck in the transition. There you go. And then another use of EBB there to completely skip that puzzle. We're going to see a little bit of strat differences in this room. I know Wii Super goes for a strat that most other runners do not go for here. But we'll see the panel fly here from Zach. Should land that first try there.
So yeah, Zach opting for the panel fly. He has to, go use that panel off to the side. A lot of slow R2 movement. You can just straight up make the jump and end up right next to the panel. That's what Wii Super's gonna do. The problem is if you die, if you miss the jump and die, you lose your helmet and have to go all the way back for another one.
And Zach is now on the newest trick here. It's another super jump. You can intersect a line through a bit of collision there, and then he's gonna pause buffer to get into position, but force R2 right out of bounds. And you can get onto this slope that just throws him into the sky here, get a fly off, fly to the end of the next room, and completely skip an entire boss fight that we never even enter. That is faster than the infamous DV2 skip that we previously were familiar with.
And Wii Super, the first try fast DV1, that's going to save him some time. He can save a little more if he gets this first try.
I could hear the spacebar presses from here.
Yeah.
I think it was a second try DV3 skip from Zach. Not an amazing CCT, but it is certainly one that'll keep him where he is, I think, for the time being. See if a little early there on that DV3 attempt from Wii Super. Ooh, just one frame off, I believe, on that one. Ooh, just barely missing it. Wow, he cannot believe how close he's getting here and still missing.
I mean, the fast DV1 jump he did earlier in the level is harder than this.
Yeah, it's one less frame of leeway, so slightly more difficult. But he does manage to get it there. See Jared heading into the bulk of the level here. See how his Cloud City Trap goes. But Zach is going into the last level of the game, the trail over Bespin, and we're going to see a pretty cool strat in this level. So if you remember back to Death Star Escape, there was that trick where we backtracked past the invisible line on the floor to deload the end trigger, called that Falconless. Well, we can do something super similar in this level. We call it Grand Theft Falcon. Very similar. You end the level with a Falcon. The method of doing it is very similar. You have to go back in the level and deload the end room to get the trigger to spawn in early, but it's a lot harder to do in this level.
Yeah. So one problem with Grand Theft Falcon on its surface is that it doesn't skip as much. In DSE, you have like a bunch of stuff to raise the Falcon up, then you kill all these enemies. In this level, it's just killing enemies. So what makes it fast, though, we have another skip called Bridge Skip, which is at the end of the level. It skips a bunch of movement, but the problem with Bridge Skip is that it makes killing all the enemies on the end platform really slow. So on their own, these two skips don't save time, but when you combine them, they're about 30 seconds faster.
Yeah, some very interesting synergy. The big problem with them is they were both super inconsistent, or at least Bridge Skip was very inconsistent for a long time, and they were both absolutely difficult. But in the past week, we've been doing a ton of work to try and make these more consistent, and it's now at the point where it's actually possible to do them in runs. But no one has actually done them in a full game run yet that I'm aware of since these new discoveries this past week. So this is, I believe, the first time we're going to see these strats in a run.
Ooh. Okay, I just want to point out what Jared did. There's this tech called edge boosting, where you do a jump and you like land on the slanted part of the edge. You get a little bit of an extra boost forward, and he made a jump that is only possible with that boost and precise spacing, called Fast EV4.
This is actually the second time in a pace that Jared has landed Fast EV4, so that's pretty awesome. Zach is coming up on the first part of Grand Theft Falcon, so he's going to turn around and real quick reload this room again just to get all the enemies de-aggroed off of him. And now he's back in this room. He's going to use the elevator to flip out of bounds here. See if he's able to land this. Ooh, does
yes.
get over. All right. So now he's under the floor. Unfortunately, the line you have to cross is just past the door we passed earlier. So you do need to go out of bounds again to actually get past it. Because it's like right there. So he did deload it. That part of the trick is done. We'll see how the rest of this goes for him. But onto door clip now. Wii Super gets a really fast first try there. See if he's able to tighten it up here. I don't believe Wii Super has had any time to learn this new strat since it's only been in the game a couple days, and he has been a pretty busy fellow the past couple days. So I don't think actually any of the other runners has had any attempt, or has had any time, excuse me, to learn this other than Zach. So I believe he's going to be the only one going for Grand Theft Falcon. We'll get to see another unique part of Grand Theft Falcon here in a moment. So normally, if people are doing this room the intended way, they would keep R2-D2 in right there, and you do box clip up ahead with R2-D2. But Zach is actually going to call in as Chewbacca and clip with Chewbacca instead, which allows you to get onto the floor just the same.
And yeah, the big advantage here really is just the faster out of bounds movement for Chewbacca, and you don't need to go past the like gas part that you normally do with R2, because you're going straight to the end platform.
So take an intentional death there because he needs to get some damage boosts to actually get across.
Nice.
Oh, just barely lands it.
First try, and now if he did the deload correctly, this should be the end of the run in just a second. Beautiful.
GG.
And
that is a lot harder than it looks. That you have to have a pretty specific angle on your stick in order to actually make it across the gap there.
yeah, and I am curious if that was a community gold. See if
505, that was a community gold by a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
Not the full potential of that split just yet, but like I said, we've only had it for a couple of days, so we got a lot of time left. Jared having a little bit of trouble with the character management here. Wii Super showing off the alternative route. If you don't go for Grand Theft Falcon, you have to go into that room to raise the bridge, but Wii Super should be the next one to finish here. And he'll be entering the last room, the final platform of the run. Just needs to kill all these enemies on this end platform. This is an iconic part of the run. It's unfortunate that we're not going to get to see it anymore, but I guess bridge skip is pretty hype as well.
Yeah, it's a good way to finish because you're not going to like completely lose your run on the end platform, but there are a few seconds of variance, and we've had some legendary like minute barrier clutches or race finishes come down to the end platform.
Oh, and he was attempting to go for a strat here where you skip the cutscene by getting movement.
He did it there on the
That
second
is the
try.
end for him. GG, Wii Super. We have Jared, barring some catastrophic disaster here, should be the next one to finish up, given the gap between the two remaining runners here. So get the box clip with R2, and he should be on his way. Yep, that is like the last big potential giant time loss there. Should just be able to walk in the third place here in the race from this point. Oh, he's going to be really close to a sub 230. I think he's got it, but it'll be pretty close. That is, of course, without loads removed. The board is timed with loads removed, but there's only about a minute of loads in the game.
And with everyone on the same computer, it should be the same across the board for this race.
Yeah, yeah. Got 1 minute left to get the sub 230 RTA. He should have that. I'm guessing this is probably a 4X based on the entrance here.
And struggled a bit with those shots across, but he did ultimately get most of those troopers down. That'll make the end platform a little bit easier.
We'll see if he's able to avoid too many deaths. It looks like he was just going crazy on R2 there, punching away there for a minute. Not what he was hoping to do.
But pretty clean with player one, only one death. And that's going to make this fairly quick if he can finish up well.
Yeah, Chewbacca's kind of in a terrible spot for him.
Yeah.
Keeps intercepting his shots.
Yeah, that's really annoying.
All right, he's gonna close out with a low 5X here. Good job, Jared. That just leaves Ginger here, cleaning up the bottom.
Oh,
wow, that's a very fast door clip. You don't usually see it that quickly.
yeah. So the thing with door clip is we have a timing. Oh no, doesn't get a respawn. He has to do it again, but that doesn't take away from the cool thing he did before. We have a timing where you like get the door to close and you do 3 jumps, and then that'll pretty consistently get it to work the next time. But he managed to do it without that setup at all. He just kind of YOLO'd it and the door closed on him, which was very cool.
Yeah, you don't get to see that, the no setup door clip too often. Oh.
Ooh, so these troopers are aggroed. He has to keep the helmet.
See if he can, all right. That should be fine.
Okay.
We've got a pair of civilians there that look a lot like Ginger. Same red hair there. So he should be able, it's looking like a 33, I'm guessing. Got about 2 minutes left, I think.
Yeah.
Close out this last section here. It is quite nice that we're able to do this box skip, because otherwise we need to rescue C-3PO, and that's what that's what the puzzle there is for. That's what this puzzle here is for. So we get to skip all that from not needing 3PO, which is quite nice.
Yeah. And here it is. Got R2 lined up. Gets the fly and inbounds safely. So this, again, Ginger should be tapping in the final time of this race. Honestly, like, not such a bad race after the start. Obviously, he kind of just got off on a bad foot with the pod fraud miss, but otherwise held up pretty well compared to the rest.
Oh, that's an awesome freeze frame on Wii Super's side. Mid leap there from Luke. I think I had a PB that had that frame as my thumbnail before. That's a classic.
Oh my God! Oh! And Incredible surf, though it didn't quite finish through the end. That would have been a great second surf to land right on the lever.
Yeah.
Still a beautiful sight.
Hits the absolutely crazy there. Who was playing for Zach? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, Ginger coming up on the final room here of the run and of the race. We'll see if he can walk in a 233 3X. Definitely on the table here. See if he's able to do that. Oh, quite a bit better than that. He can get a 2X here, actually. Got the jump roll during the cutscene as well. And time. Good job, Ginger. Finishing up strong there. Well, GG's to all the runners. GG to all the runners. That was a great race. Glad we got to showcase that again. Coming up next, we have a LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean run. Another broken game, so if you like the LEGO games, be sure to stick around. Thank you for watching this one.